This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
If you're getting any compensation, it's not charity.
Russ Wakeland. Did you put me on a boat with frickin' dragons attacking me and whatnot? Now we're talking.
And Sydney Engelstein in the third chair.
Oh God, we're going to die. We're all going to die.
With contributions from Total Fangirl
Vampires do not sparkle.
and our loyal listener.
Are you crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming out at the speed of an Amazon-class frigate with full sails before reaching high wind. Today's edition is brought to you by EclecticGamer.com. EclecticGamer.com is looking for beta testers for a website that gives customized board game ratings. Check out eclectic-gamer.com/ratings. I'm Geekly McNerdigan, your host today. As always, our panelists are Russ, the Earl of Clenwilliam Wakeland, and special guest Sydney, Sir Charles Eden Engelstein, RPG evangelist and co-designer of the amazing game, filler or not, Space Cadets Dice Duel. Let's begin. Issue number 1. A ship of the line was a type of naval warship constructed from the 17th through the mid-19th century to take part in naval tactic known as the line of battle, in which two columns of opposing warships would maneuver to bring the greatest weight of broadside guns to bear. Question: what modern term is considered by many historians as a contraction of the term ship of the line of battle? HMS Royal Sovereign Russ. HMS Scarborough Sydney.
Shabattle.
That is such an interesting... Sydney, you're going to hit yourself when I say this. And Russ, you should just hide your head in shame. Not shabattle, which is not actually a term, but battleship. Of course, it would have been easier if I had used the actual alternative term, line of battleship, but that would have been too easy. Issue number 2. In general, a filler is something that is used to fill gaps. Specialized meaning of the word filler include dietary fiber and other ingredients added to pet foods to provide bulk. A sound spoken to fill up gaps in utterances. A person who fills an empty seat during an event. Or a game that fills up the time between more substantial games. Question: in one of the great filler games, Timeline, players must place inventions, events, and scientific discoveries in the correct chronological order. Place the following 3 events in the correct order: the invention of the comic strip, the invention of the traffic light, and the invention of the toaster. Adolf Rickenbacker Russ.
I'm going to go with Toaster Traffic Light Comic.
Kia Silverbrook Sydney.
Comic strip. Toaster. Traffic light.
Oh, so close, Sydney. Russ, you're pathetic. Comic strip in 1826, traffic light in 1868, and toaster in 1924. Sydney, you had it, and then you gave it away.
I was totally going to say that.
Issue number 3. Gaming groups come in all shapes, sizes, and types. There's even a couple of words in there. The old graybeards with their historical games, the young whippersnappers with their latest CCG, mini gamers, board gamers, card gamers, and of course, RPGers. Every one of them comes with their own unique strengths and challenges, but the gamers, like the games, have been around for a long, long time. And they'll be around for a long time to come. Question: what type of LARP did Harpo Marx refer to in his 1920s biography, Harpo Speaks? Remote control Russ.
I'm going to go with a murder mystery.
Slow-mo samurai Sydney.
Pirates.
Pardon me a moment while I choke. Russ, I'll give you partial credit on that. An assassination type game in which people would kill each other by sneaking up on them and say the words, "You're dead." Man, LARPing. It's old. Issue number 4. Lord Horatio Nelson was a British admiral famous for his service in the Royal Navy, particularly during the Napoleonic Wars. He was noted for his inspirational leadership and superb grasp of strategy and unconventional tactics, which resulted in a number of decisive naval victories. Question: after his greatest victory at the Battle of Trafalgar, how did Nelson make the return trip to London? Marquis of Ripon Russ.
By rowboat.
Earl of Stafford Sydney.
Dragonback. I read this book.
Wrong book. In a cask of brandy. He had been shot and killed by a French sharpshooter during the battle.
Wow.
Yes. That's it for now. Thanks for listening and good night.
This episode of the D6 generation is brought to you by GameSalute.com. Check out gaming news or find out what the new hotness is on Springboard. GameSalute.com.
And by Battle Foam, protecting your army so you don't have to.
And by Conquistador Games, focusing on immersive and thematic games. More details at cqgames.com.
And by Cool Mini or Not, the vanguard of a new genre bringing minis and board games together. CoolMiniOrNot.com.
And by Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation, touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And Wargame Soldiers and Strategy Magazine, making historical wargaming less scary and more fun.
And by miniaturemarket.com. Want an even better deal? Like them on Facebook and click the D6G logo.
Hello!
Hello.
Hey, and welcome to episode 141
That was a very high-pitched hello.
of the D6 generation. I'm Russ Wakelin.
I'm Craig Gallant.
And I'm Sydney Engelstein.
Hey, Sydney.
Yay! Welcome, Sydney.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show. Now, all of our listeners should be well familiar with Sydney, but if they are not, of course, Sydney Engelstein is, of course, the daughter of Jeff Engelstein and a co-designer of Space Cadets Dice Duel.
Her name is right on the cover of the game.
It is, right there. And Sydney, you were kind enough also to help us do the D6 Generation Play by Mob event this past summer at Gen Con.
Yeah, that was fun.
So thank you so much for helping us with that. And have you been pleasantly surprised by the success of Dice Duel?
Yeah, totally. It's pretty insane.
So does your brother do you have any little jealous? Because your brother, of course, worked with your dad on Space Cadets.
Yeah.
And you worked with your dad on Dice Duel. So do you have like a little friendly rivalry about which game's doing better or anything like that? Or
Oh, yeah, totally. Because Ares Project?
yes, yeah, oh yeah.
That was just my brother and my dad.
Oh, right,
so
right.
I'm always like, Dice Duel is so much more fun than Ares Project. Clearly, it's because of the addition of me.
Do you ever compare sales numbers and be like, Dice Duels sold more than both combined or anything like that? Or you work those numbers out at all? Or anything?
Oh, no, I don't really follow that kind of stuff.
See.
Like I read reviews and I get really excited about that stuff, but
Yeah.
I never get the straight, like, it sold blank amount of copies kind of thing.
Well, that's awesome. It's doing very well, and you should be very proud because you did a great job on that game. It's fantastic. So since we have Sydney on the show, we thought that it would be great, since arguably Dice Duel is a filler game because it plays in about 30 minutes.
Right.
And I know, Sydney, being from the Engelstein family, you must have played many a game in your childhood.
Many.
So we figured, who better than to talk with us about filler games, what makes good filler games, and what filler games we like.
Yep.
So up first, we're going to talk about that, but then later we are going to review Craig's new hotness. What's that, Craig?
Sales of Glory!
See, I thought you could just say it without the echo, but that was pretty cool.
No, I can't say. You can't say Sales of Glory without the echo.
All right. So Sales of Glory, of course, is the
Wait,
new...
let me try.
Okay, try it.
Sales of... Nope, see.
It doesn't work. It's just how it comes.
I could just try it conversationally. Ready? So anyway, we were playing Sales of Glory.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No.
So anyway, this game is from the Kickstarter, and now it's from the folks who made...
Yes.
Well, we'll talk about it later this episode. We'll tell you all about it later.
Yeah.
Great naval combat game.
Indeed.
I'm super excited.
I know. We can't wait to talk about it. Now, normally we have a contest here. We do not. We're going to have to get a new one started soon.
Yes. Once again, we're being buried by our prize packages.
The prize, yes, and we don't want to take it all to Gen Con. We do, but it's just that much heavier, so we got to give some of this away.
That's right.
So we'll do that again soon. But before we get to all those things, we should talk about a few announcements. Craig, we just recorded a lost chapter.
We did.
And Sydney, you were kind enough to join us in Dunkin' Donuts. And do you remember?
I was?
You were. And do you remember what we talked about?
RPGs?
We did talk about RPGs. So Sydney
Wow.
runs. Yeah, see, like a steel trap, this one.
Yep.
She's got a mind like a... So
That's right. Ka-ching!
Right. So
Kapow!
we talked about RPGs, and Sydney runs an RPG club at her school. And so we grilled you on all the things it takes to keep that club running and how you got it started or got involved with it and what you do there.
And how do you run? How do you like deal with games that like with people who are in and out and all kinds of interesting stuff?
Right, the total strangers, right?
Yep.
That's pretty freaky.
But Russ, that's not all we did last week.
No, Craig, what are you referring to, sir?
No. Well, I'm referring to the fact that we did our very first ever video, you and I.
We did. We are on the big screen. Well, okay, it's a little screen.
It's a little screen, actually.
It's a little screen.
What did you do?
So we started this thing. We got involved with Patreon.
Patreon.com.
So,
that was Patreon.com.
Thank you. So
There you go.
It's a brand new way to support the show, and it's a way we want to shift support of our show. So right now, we support our show through a bunch of different ways. It takes a lot of time for us to do it.
Yep.
And so we decided to try out Patreon, which is a brand new service. It started in spring of last year, and it's sort of like Kickstarter, but instead of a giant lump sum payment, you actually support the artists, or quote, air quotes, artists,
That would be us.
who make different kinds of recurring projects. So
Contrary to the evidence.
right. So people who make regular comic strips, you might support them, or people who make music, you might support them, or people who make podcasts, things that regularly occur. You kind of like sign up to give a little tip every time they make it and help encourage them to produce this content. And as a way to kind of track and help that, there's different levels you can support at, and then we can give back to our listeners and be more interactive with you guys.
Yep. We often have people who ask us, like, how can we support the show? And I want to give back to the show. This is a great way because there's a lot of different levels of support. And one of them, 50 cents. You just agree and you like tip us 50 cents an episode. And that's all it takes. And you get access to a little forum that I was tricked into because it's basically like Facebook. And I feel cheated, but, there you go. And Russ and I are on that every day. We're chatting it up where we throw questions out there. We answer questions. We take questions before shows.
Yeah.
And there are other levels as well that give you more access to us.
Like
here's
a question. So we had a question from one of our patrons, Sydney, about Dice Duel.
Really?
Yes. And they wanted to know, is there an expansion in the works for Dice Duel? Can you tell us, first of all, is there an expansion in the works?
Yeah, there is an expansion, and I'm pretty sure I can tell you.
Ooh.
Well, I hope so, because you just did.
Well, there is an expansion.
What's it going to be like?
Oh, it's going to be super cool. I'm super excited. I already like it better than the original game.
Really? So what is
It's
it?
basically,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
there'll be special equipment cards that let the ships do different things using those sides of the dice that everybody hates to roll because right now they mean nothing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And there's also going to be a new type of ship that's manned by just one person.
Ooh, like a single person spacecraft?
Fighter.
Like a fighter, a space fighter. See, that's awesome. So we want to especially thank patron Phil, who I guess ran into your dad at the Spiel. Essen, yes.
Which is the same thing.
Same thing. And yeah, so he got a good demo there. So he was all excited to hear more about it. So
he also had his further question, Sydney, was, did you develop the expansion while you were developing the main game? In parallel?
Some of it. The different types of ships that we were working out was before the original game came out, but we were like, some of it has to just get out now because otherwise we'll keep developing more and it'll never exist.
Gotcha. So that's cool. So
that sounds awesome.
You.
So folks,
that's Patreon.
That's Patreon. If you want to check it out and help support us and learn all about it and watch Craig and I in a video, see what we actually look like in person because we're a little freaky looking.
We've already heard several comments about the fact that Russ's head is not huge.
No, but there's been other comments who figured it out, Craig.
Oh, really?
That I used forced perspective and actually sat farther away from the camera from you.
You were much farther away than I was.
It looked
That's
like.
True. Unlike the special effects used in Lord of the Rings.
Right. So much like The Hobbit.
Yep.
So if you want to check it out, just head on over to the D6generation.com and click the little Patreon logo on the right-hand side there, and you can learn all about it and watch us in that crazy video.
And we would really appreciate you just taking a look at the video and look around the website and see if it's something you be interested in.
And that's now the best way to get the Lost Chapters as well. So it's a thank you.
Indeed. For the same price of the Lost Chapters subscription.
Yeah. So now we'll also
support the main show.
You know, we don't mind to correct our mistakes. If we make a mistake, we'll put it right up in the front of the show here.
Especially one that is so aggravating and enraging that it just causes people to inundate us and flood us with emails.
This may be the most emailed correction we have ever received.
Yes, people were very upset with us.
So
did you add 2 + 2 and get 5?
No, not. Oh,
no, that's happened before.
Worse than that, we missed the release of a board game.
Right.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? So
shame.
Right. So
yes, shame. In
the predictions episode, Rafe predicted last year that Uwe Rosenberg would release a game set in the Renaissance period.
Yep.
Now, we all looked at each other, and when we were deciding if Rafe's prediction was right or not, none of us could remember a game released in the Renaissance picture.
None of us, including Rafe.
So we called that wrong and did not reward him any points for that. However, we have your own father, Sydney, tweeted this, actually.
Yes. He was very angry.
He was on it like within 2 hours of the show going live. But in any case, other people have emailed us as well. It turns out that a game called Glass Roads, a game of stained glass making, which sounds right up Rafe's alley, right there. It also happens to occur that you are making this stained glass in the Renaissance period. So Rafe totally nailed it.
Yay! Give him 3 points.
Unfortunately, he still lost, but that is a nice little bonus for Rafe. So
there
Rafe,
you go.
Nice
Absolutely.
job on that.
Yes, and we gave it to him last night at dinner. So
Right.
he smiles and thanks you all.
So thank you all for correcting us on that one. So now rush out, get Glass Roads, and build yourself some stained glass. You know, when I was a kid, I used to play that game too, but it was one of them, you have those little metal wire things, and you drizzle in those little like speckly things, you put them in the oven,
Yep.
and you take them out, and you have stained glass. You seen that before? It's kind of the... Anyway.
Yeah, I have seen those.
All right. So now it's time for what, Craig?
Now it's time for Achievements in Gaming.
It is indeed, and Achievements in Gaming is brought to you by The Cranky Lawyer for all your non-game related criminal defense needs. And, of course, Mouthwash, because you never know when you might meet a gamer girl. Mouthwash from the makers of soap, a subsidiary of deodorant. So now this part of the show, for those who don't know, is when we talk about the games we played recently, and this noise you're going to hear is not a mistake. That is
it's not.
high-tech audio special effect.
Indeed.
It sounds like a bloop.
It's very observant.
Actually, I think the technical term for that sound is a bloop.
It is a bloop. It is actually, don't tell Microsoft, it's actually the achievement noise from the Xbox. Shh.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is.
Conspiracy.
Exactly. So it is.
Infringement!
Yes. So it is the noise. It is the noise. Well, we're promoting the Xbox here, so it's fine. All right. So these are the noises you hear when you do some kind of cool gaming achievement or nerdy activity. So up for Sydney, since you are the guest, what games have you been playing lately?
Well, I just played Rampage.
Ooh. What'd you think of Rampage?
With or without the meeple stickers?
With the meeple stickers.
Of
course!
All
Of
morning
course.
putting on.
Yes, you did. I know you did, because I did too, and it takes a long time.
It does. What'd you think of Rampage, Sydney?
I enjoyed it, even though we won, and I didn't think we should have, because we ended up winning because in our first 4 turns, we flicked ourselves off the side of the board and lost all our teeth.
Yep.
But that way, no one could steal our teeth from us.
Ah, very
so
clever.
they couldn't get any points when they got knocked.
Strategy.
So.
But you were still able to eat enough sets of meeples to get good points?
Yeah, we never knocked anything over. We were terrible. We just went to other people's messes and ate them, and then we won.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go.
So, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah, we got that game too, and my kids really liked it. I enjoyed it a lot. In fact, it's one of those really rare games that's fun with anyone. You can get a room of gamers going. It's one of the most popular filler games right now at Myriad. You can also play it with your family. You can play it with your friends. It's just one of those wacky fun games.
Yeah, I was over at a family friend's house, and they were like, "Oh, we love board games. We played Scrabble. Come play." You know, it was like one of those families. And we brought it, and it was great. Yeah, except their son is a trumpet player, and he pwned us all.
Oh,
with the
see.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a dexterity-based game, and you flick your little Godzilla, non-IP infringing giant monster feet around the table. And then what's cool about it is
it's a dragon.
Because he has radioactive breath, right? And then what's cool is you can put your chin on top of your little radioactive dragon's head, and then you blow as hard as you can. You can knock over the buildings, because part of the table is you're setting up these little towers of like skyscrapers that are filled in with meeples and cardboard, and you're trying to blow them over, and then you eat the meeples that fall out near your feet. It's a lot of fun.
It is.
Crazy, silly wackiness. What else you playing, Sydney?
I played Study in Emerald pretty recently.
Now, what's that
was
like?
Cool.
Is that a what kind
What
of
does
game
that
is
noise
it?
mean?
That means you got an achievement for playing Study in Emerald. See?
I already forgot.
Bear with us. We just explained this.
It's good. See?
Yeah, but you said, "Oh, it's the achievement noise."
Yes.
but
you
but
scored an
what?
achievement for playing Study in Emerald. Now, what is Study in Emerald like? How does it play?
It's like it's sort of a weird deck builder because there are cards, like a ton of different piles, and you can bid on getting cards from the top of the piles and then put them in your deck, which works like a deck builder. But you spend the cards to try and achieve certain goals, and it's also a little bit of hidden identity, even though it's pretty easy to figure out who everyone is. So you're either trying to protect the royal Cthulian family, or you're trying to kill them all. And there's some weird things, because even though you're on a team with all the people on your team, it's the one who's in the highest wins, but whoever has the lowest score, no one on their team can win at all.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool.
So it's a lot you have to think of while you're
Nice.
playing.
Cool. Any other board games you playing lately?
I played Mush Mush,
Ooh.
which was fun.
Now, what's Mush Mush like?
It's like a dog racing game,
Oh, yeah.
but
okay.
it's all about drifting from side to side.
Yep.
So you have two cards which represent your speed in front of you, and if one is faster than the other, then you have to drift to the side, and there's all these trees on the board, and everything goes horrible forever.
Nice. I think I played that game before. I played a different game very similar to it. Did it have little wooden tree meeples?
Was it Snowtails?
Snowtails the one I played.
Because it's Mush Mush is the I don't know, sequel to Snowtails?
There's a sequel to that game? I did not know this.
Apparently, it's like Snowtails 2.
Mush Mush.
Is the subtitle.
So what makes it, and I like Snowtails a lot. I really like how it works. It's simple, it's fast. I love the components, the little wooden sleds and and I do like how you have the two cards you kind of lock into where your dogs sit. So is Mush Mush, what takes it to the next level?
Well, we played the basic game, so I just heard about this, but there's these like ceramic buildings. They're really nice.
Ooh,
There are
wow.
also really nice trees, but they shed all over the table. And if you stop right by the side of a building, you can get power-ups for your sled. And
Oh,
so
cool.
just more things to think about while you're running.
So like hot cocoa and some treats for the dogs and you're ready to rock, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
basically.
Cool. That's cool. Anything else?
I haven't been playing much recently,
No, that's
sadly.
okay. That's all right. Craig, how about you? What have you been playing lately?
What have I been playing lately? Well, I've been playing a lot of Sales of Glory.
Nice.
I managed to. I played two ship on two ship Ships of the Line game, two ship on two ship frigate game, one ship on one ship Ship of the Line game, and a one ship on one ship frigate game. So I pretty much
Wow.
got the whole thing covered.
Nice. So we can talk about that later. We're going to get all
We've got to talk about that later, and
Yes.
of course, that it takes a lot of time and effort to play those games, and I wouldn't have done it if I didn't love it. Spoiler alert!
Spoiler.
Dungeon. I've been playing Dungeon Roll again. It comes out every time we play. We do at least one round of Dungeon Roll,
Yep.
and I've been playing Rampage like it's going out of style.
Nice.
Both the real full game and Reese, my 3-year-old, loves to just knock over the buildings and eat the meat. But he has no idea. We're not playing with cards or anything, and he just flicks the little disc and then drops the monster and then
Nice.
eats the meeples. And so, I mean, it really scales well for that sort of thing.
Nice.
And I saw the best epic fail on Rampage last night when your brother John
Yeah.
had the special ability where he gets to flick twice each movement action, failed to get onto a building so he could destroy it. The next turn, he finally got onto the building and then dropped, or he was on the building at the end of that movement. He dropped his monster twice and did not do a single thing to the building both times. So that was fun.
At least he didn't miss the building. That's good.
But at least he didn't what?
Yeah, if you miss the building, you lose a tooth. So this didn't miss the building.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, he didn't miss the building. He hit it, paused for a moment, and then
Right.
toppled off.
Right.
Pop the Pig is a new favorite game of Reese's now, where you shove a giant plastic pig full of hamburgers and press his head, and his stomach gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it explodes.
A pig is eating hamburger?
Yeah,
So-
it's pretty. Yeah, oh yeah,
That's kind of
hamburg.
disturbing.
That- I think-
Why it's cow.
Yeah, but
No, I mean the
yeah.
stomach exploding.
Yeah, well,
Right.
it doesn't explode out. His belt explodes and his arms go up, and he goes, "Oh!"
what message are you sending to your son here, Craig?
I don't know. His grandfather bought it for
Okay,
him. I
fair
don't-
enough.
It's actually, if you think about it, it goes right with the whole grandparent theme.
I mean, this is right up there with Ants in the Pants. You play that
Have
game?
whatever you want until you explode.
Okay, fair enough.
And he's a big fan of Thomas the tank engine. And my parents, his other grandparents, got him a game that's basically Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
It's called like the Thomas the Tank Engine die popping game or something like that. And he kicks my butt on that on a regular
When you
basis.
push the popper down, does it say, "You're causing confusion and delay, Thomas"?
You're not a very useful engine,
Not a very
Thomas.
useful engine, Thomas.
Yeah. So that's me. What do you got, Russ?
Let's see. Well, I'm playing a lot of Wild West Exodus.
Excellent. I like to hear that.
Yeah, I played 2 500-point games against our
Ooh.
friend Ryan. And
Yep.
Ryan has a lot of stuff. So Ryan has, he ran Wyatt Earp and the Lawmen. Made the mistake, so he got all excited because the Lawmen like to be base to base because they have this bonus armor thing. So he's got them all base to base.
Yep.
And didn't quite know how Jesse James's heat ammo worked. Now, I did cheat. I missed the rule that Jesse James can't fire the heat ammo more than once per activation. So I may have fired it more than once and ended up tabling him in one turn. So then we moved on to a...
I cheated outrageously.
I did. So then we tried another. He said, I want to play Lincoln anyway. So he broke out Lincoln and the Union. And he also had, what's the girl's name that lures you out into the middle of the tabletop?
Lucinda Lovelace.
Lucinda Lovelace, who's really tough to deal with because if she has line of sight to you, basically she can take control of your models. But I love how this rule is worded because you, the defender, has to make a roll, and if you roll 5 or more, she lures you out. But if you roll 4 or less, she does not. So you can actually spend influence to avoid the effect.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're rolling, which is cool. So I avoided the effect and then ended up, he charged Lincoln forward because he really wanted to see hand-to-hand combat, killed the little dude. And then, but I had, I played a lot of 40K, so I know how to build defenses and stacks. So you kind of play Wild West the same way. So you put a little guy out there to get some poor sucker to charge him, and then they kill the poor sucker, and then he's standing there in front of all your guns, and you shoot him, and that's pretty much how Abe Lincoln died. So that's pretty much what happened there. But that was a fun game.
Killed Abe Lincoln?
I did. Abe Lincoln is now a dead president. He's appearing on the $5 bill. And now we've got also been playing a lot of Wild West Exodus even more. I played also with Adam. Played a 500-point game with Adam, and he had the spider dude. What's the spider dude's name, Craig?
That would be Eiffel.
Yes. Played against him. He also ran forward and killed lots of people and then was standing out in the open. So Jesse James walked out, fired his guns on normal. They'll bounce off his armor. So he pushed his guns together and fired one heat blast and killed him in one shot. That was pretty cool.
He one-shotted Eiffel.
Did. And then he decided that he wanted to bring Carpathian out. And then we went 750, and he had Carpathian and the giant robot dude. Who's the giant robot dude, Craig? Big, tall.
The giant robot dude would be like
huge model. I don't know.
Like it's a number, right? Is he like undead guy with 4 arms?
Yeah, and he's got like a machine gun and a cannon or something. And so he comes out, and he was a problem because I would kill him, but he'd stay on the table, and then Carpathian could bring him back to life. And then Edison could heal him. So I had this whole thing going. So I shot him in the middle of the table. So he ran Carpathian up and brought him back to life, which put Carpathian in range of Jesse James, and that was the end of all that. So basically, don't get in range of Jesse James. Is pretty what we've learned here in these 4 games.
There you go.
So there you have it. Jesse James is awesome. Just saying.
Awesome.
All right. Then played Rivet Wars. Finally got Rivet Wars.
Ooh, very exciting.
So Rivet Wars, I'm really loving the models. Played a couple games with our friend Mike, and boy, a lot of good tactics in that game. I really like it. Now, models are off the charts. Great looking game. Very pleased with my kickstarting backing from Cool Mini or not. Tiles are warping again a little bit.
No,
I know.
Not as bad. It can't be as bad.
Not as bad. And actually, Sedition Wars did finally settle down if I left them out after I left them out for a long time. So I've got them all out, drying out now. I don't know where this manufacturing plant is that gets all this humidity problems, but that's definitely a challenge. But otherwise, but it looks fantastic. I love all the components, little dudes. And it's even got little, your models look fantastic. And there's little, grooves in the bases, and you can plug these little red things in. That's your wound tokens. It's just really well done. Then, speaking of blinged out games, Craig, I played Eclipse.
Yes. I heard about this.
So, Sydney, I don't know if you know about this. So, Project Obscuring Luna was a secret project I was working on because I love the board game Eclipse. You played Eclipse, Sydney?
I have.
Okay, so what do you think of Eclipse?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a big, epic 4X sci-fi game with lots of little bits. And the problem I had with Eclipse was all the ships in Eclipse are actually very generic plastic ships. All the factions have the same shaped ships, 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large. And they're all these generic ships that have been used in other board games you've probably seen, like Galactic Emperor and all these other games. And so it's kind of dull. I mean, all the ships look the same. So I've wanted for a long time to replace these with cooler ships. So I was trying to convert my Firestorm Armada models or find something else to do. And I'd call this Project Obscuring Luna, my quest to fix this game. Well, it turned out, and I was running into problems, and I was putting it turned out the manufacturer has fixed it for me because they released an expansion called Ship Pack 1. It is a $30 expansion, which is kind of pricey, but it comes with 110 plastic models.
Wow.
And it comes with all new plastic for all the factions that come in the game with cool shaped ships. So some of them look like Flash Gordon's ships, and some of them look like Borg cubes, and some of them look like just like all kinds of stuff. And all different colors, but also the space stations used to be tokens. Now they're all replaced as well. Each race has got their own cool space station. It looks fantastic. It just really looks cool on the board. And a couple bonus rules as well, a new faction in there, stuff like that. But mostly it's for the plastic ships. So very, very pleased with that. So I played that. And then, so this is why I have so many games on my list. So my wife and kids went out with my sister-in-law and my niece. They had a gymnastics meet in New York City. So all the ladies went to New York City, which left me as a bachelor for the weekend. So my brother and my nephew decided to invite me over to their house. We played games all weekend pretty much. So we played Sentinels of the Multiverse pretty much round the clock. That is a very addictive game that my brother and nephew just absolutely love. So
I love that game.
It is so good. It just captures. It's amazing that game. It's the best capturing of a comic book themed hero battle with a villain ever, and it's non-IP. That's the best part about it. It's totally just all new heroes that are not DC, not Marvel, not anything, just made up for the game, and they're just fantastic. So played I can't remember any games we played. It was just all weekend. We also played Rampage, and then we also played. So I tried this. I played Descent 2. My first plan was, okay, we're going to have the whole weekend together. I'll bring Descent 2. And we'll just have the two of them against me, the Overlord. We'll play until they get bored, and we'll just play a whole campaign or something. Well, I've been complaining about Descent 2 for a while that I could never win as Overlord. And I've always played against other gamers, veteran gamers, and I've always played with 4 heroes against the Overlord. Now, I've been winning lately with some of the newer rules, but had a hard time. With 2 players, it's very hard for the heroes. There's just not enough activations. The game doesn't scale down very well. So we ran into that problem. They got a little frustrated. We moved on. So that's a little weakness of the game. I think people who, I think when players say the Overlord wins a lot, it's probably because they have lower hero count. When the heroes lose a lot, it's probably because the other way. Anyway, whatever I'm trying to say, you know what I mean. So that's basically how that works. So I guess player count doesn't matter. It doesn't scale as well as they meant to. And then of course I've also played Sales of Glory with both Craig and our friend Randy, who also backed the Kickstarter as well. So got some of that. So that's all the board games we've been playing. But then also we should talk about modeling. Now, Sydney, have you ever tried miniature wargaming at all?
Well, it's a tiny bit that my brother and my dad dragged me into it because they're really obsessed with it, but I was never a big fan.
Obsessed is a good word. So,
I used to do the terrain for them.
Nice.
While they worked on their armies.
Very cool. So they played, I believe, War Machine, right?
They played all kinds of stuff. They played Warhammer, and then War Machine, and then like Malifaux, and they did one boat one that was reminding me when you kept saying Sails of Glory, but now I can't think of the name.
Probably Uncharted Seas, I think.
Uncharted Seas.
Or maybe Dystopian
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, that.
Yep.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Cool. So you managed to avoid the addiction, which is very, very well done.
Thank you.
It'll save you money down the road.
Oh my God, they were spending so much money, and then they were like not even building things.
It is very tempting.
That's the hobby.
Pretty much. You
Collect boxes of unused stuff.
Yep, pretty much. It's awesome. All right, so Craig, what have you been working on for models?
Well, let's see. I'm going to count putting 90 Rampage Meeple stickers double-sided onto the Meeples.
Allowed.
Oh, then I have been modeling?
Yeah, see, there you go. I meant to actually bring that up and give Sydney credit for that, because that is totally modeling.
You got achievements for that.
Yeah. And then I finally got my first little box of Wild West Exodus loot.
Yay!
And I put together 20 lawmen models.
Wow.
Including 2 interceptor bikes, which look awesome and crazy. One, I put one doing like a wheelie, and the other one's like.
So Ryan had backed it so high that he had all the buildings from Micro Arts.
Oh, nice!
And then also he had built all the bikes, and he built the truck, and we just used them as terrain. So we had all the bikes parked out in front of the saloon. It was
nice. Yeah.
What kind of Wild West is this?
Oh, it's
an alternate history Wild West.
Exodus of Wild West. So Craig, why don't you give the elevator pitch since you wrote on
the elevator pitch is our history right around the time of the Wild West, but a science fiction element has been injected into our timeline by this mysterious evil influence. So you've got a lot of the historical figures that we know about, but they're all different now, and they've all been twisted by this evil influence. And now you've got laser guns and hover bikes and like giant pickup truck weapon vehicles and all kinds of cool stuff like that.
Why is something that gave us hover bikes and laser guns evil?
Good point. Well done, Sydney.
Because the power source is actually rendered down, unalloyed evil for real.
It's from.
Oh, I see.
It's from Demon Spawn or something, right? Well, we don't know.
Yeah,
you can't.
You don't know. I know.
Spoiler, right? So so cool, Craig.
I was very excited. The models are friggin' ridiculous.
I know. I've been building my Wild West Exodus stuff. I've not painted it yet, though. So I need.
I've got it primed now. I've got my lawmen primed. So my next step is to try to paint.
Yep. All right. So that's modeling. Now we've got other geeky random goodness, Sydney. So this part's where we talk about any good geeky TV shows we've watched, or books we've read, or movies we've seen. So what have you been doing on that front, Sydney?
Well, I just went to an anime convention recently.
Oh, nice.
Which was my first anime convention ever, so that was super cool.
So what are some of your favorite anime films?
Well, I was with my friends. It was my friend's birthday party, and we were all dressed up as Sword Art Online characters.
Oh, okay.
So that's one of my favorites.
Very cool.
It was really, really fun. We did karaoke. Even though we don't speak Japanese, we just made up some words to the tune of the song.
See, that's the best way to do it. That's awesome.
And I watched this show. It's not really a show. It's a YouTube series.
Okay.
It's called Job Hunters,
Ooh.
and it's amazing.
Now, what's it about?
It's like the Hunger Games, but basically in the future to combat overpopulation and to put the best candidate in each job. Right after you graduate high school, everyone has to go into the arena where you live in dorms, and then from 9 to 5, you fight to the death or until you get a job offer.
That sounds pretty funny.
And it's like funny but dramatic, and
Yeah, I was gonna say,
it's like kind of an amateur production because it's just on YouTube, but
Right.
they have like film crews and stuff because they're all kickstarted, and it's wonderful, and I love
That's
it.
cool. That's cool. That's awesome. I'm loving some of the new formats we're getting on the internet. That's awesome. Anything else you've been doing? Have any books you read
Well,
lately?
the new episode of Sherlock came out.
Oh, yes, it did. Now, have you
Yes,
seen?
it did.
Have you seen first one, second one? How far are you in? Just the first one so far?
I just saw the second one.
Yeah. How good was the first one? Now, Craig, have you seen any of these? Have you followed Sherlock, Craig?
No, I have not. No.
You haven't followed any. You watched any Sherlocks? You don't
I
care
have
about it.
never watched any Sherlock.
Awesome.
no.
So Sydney and I can totally get into it and spoil everything right now.
There you go. You go right ahead.
So how awesome was the season premiere this season where they just played on the whole thing that everybody was trying to figure out all last year how he survived? Was that cool?
Yeah, I'm kind of upset that they still haven't told us.
I thought that was brilliant because you don't know. I thought it was awesome because you really don't know how he did.
I thought the best part was when John was like, I really don't care.
Right, that was the best part. He started just not caring at the end. I loved all the fan stuff, like all the fans, the internet memes where they had maybe the TARDIS came in and say all these little crazy ideas of what happened. But I thought it was awesome how they did that and they made those jokes the entire episode. That was funny, and it was also cool. Now you haven't seen the third one yet, right?
No, I refuse to stream it over the internet. Like,
Yes.
all my friends are like,
No,
we're
see-
on the 5th episode already. And I'm like, no, I'm watching it on TV.
No, I would not do that because it is not legal. But if I were to have seen it, and I have not, it would be cool because they do a good job of, like, the very first episode this season. It looks like almost it's just really, really hilarious and it's funny, but it almost looks like there's no major content in there.
Mm-hmm.
But then it all ties together in the end, which is awesome. So it ends up being a fantastic season. Assuming I had seen the third one, which I haven't. So what else? Anything else you're watching?
Well, I just watched Hannibal,
Oh,
which was really awesome. And I don't know if that counts as geeky, but I'm just going to say it because I just watched it and it's amazing.
Ah.
And I'm super excited for the second season.
Oh, I got to catch up on that. I want to see that too. What would you like about the first season?
Well, there's this character, and his name is Will Graham, and he's adorable and perfect.
Okay, all right, there we go. Good to
That
know
about
that. then.
sums up the show.
All right, good to know these things. So, Craig, what have you been watching and reading?
What have I been watching and reading, etc.? I am finishing up Jonathan Mayberry's King of Plagues, which is book 3 of the Joe Ledger series. And I'll just say, politics aside, I actually ended up really enjoying the book. He's really good at action, and there's a couple really awesome tense moments in the book. There's a lot of places where it's starting to drag a little bit, and it kind of lost me, and a couple things like I didn't really know why they were there, but it really came together in the end enough to get me to already buy the next book before I finish this one. Also finishing reading Tom Kratman's next book in the Carrera series, Come and Take Them, which again is going away from its political roots for the most part, although they're still there, and is more of an alternate history. It's kind of sci-fi because there's more sci-fi there now because it's I think it's getting really cool, and again I hope folks give it a chance.
Nice.
I had a free night this week, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Karen has gone away on a little vacation, and she's trapped down south where 2 inches of snow have shut down the entire
Paralyzed Atlanta, yes.
that half of the country.
Right.
Polar vortex.
Oh, it's don't get Russ started.
Yeah, when I was a kid, we had polar vortexes too. We called it winter.
Yeah. And so, so I've had some free time, and it's been enjoyable because I'm in between books right now. I've submitted my notes for the next book I'm supposed to write, and I've finished the edits on the last book. So I'm like, I can't do anything right now, guys. So I went on Netflix and just started looking around, and I saw something that I recognized, Forward Unto Dawn.
Oh, it's an awesome series.
The webisode series that they did that was sort of a prequel to Halo 4, the video game.
Indeed.
And you can get it on Netflix all edited together as an 1.5 hour long movie, and it was awesome.
It is good. Yeah.
It was very, very cool. Not very, very cool was the movie Olympus Has Fallen.
Oh, dear.
Which was fun. It was a fun movie. It was silly. I mean, it was very, very silly. But other than the silliness and there's really just no, there's no, I don't know. They're just killing people left and right is what I mean. Right. Like literally just nobody cares about human life on either side. It's a bam, 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 bam. It's people dying all over the place. But it was silly, but it was a fun time. And that's what I got for the most part.
While you're bored and on Netflix, you should watch Supernatural.
Well, that's not going to happen, but thank you very much for looking out for my best interest.
Supernatural.
You're welcome.
That's a quality show right there. I don't know if they've ever watched it. I tried watching Supernatural once, and I got like halfway through the first episode. I had to stop.
I think I got about the same place.
Now, I think I liked that show, but I really didn't. I tried Smallville, too. I couldn't get into that either. Did you like Smallville, Craig?
No, I couldn't do it.
Sydney, did you watch Smallville?
No.
No. See, yeah. It didn't ruin anything for me either. All right, I don't know how that's related to Supernatural, but it is. Okay, so I am about halfway through Basilisk Station, Craig.
So how is the audiobook?
Oh, see, I like it. So the narrator does a fantastic job. She's awesome. And there's the one thing about how they pronounce Manticorin or Manticore because or Manticore, whatever it is, because they say it officially differently than David Weber says it should be said, but it's not their fault. It's David's fault, as he said on the show, because they asked him how to pronounce it, and he accidentally sent them the wrong thing. So if you get by that, it's fine. And I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it anyway, so it's totally fine for me.
Well, there you go.
So I'm having a blast with it. Manticore, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm having a blast with it. I'm loving it.
Oh, it's Manticorin was what he said she had a problem with.
Yeah, I think she's calling it Manticorin.
Manticorin.
Manticorin, right. So I love the book. I missed it. I'd forgotten how good it was, and I can't wait to read the next one or listen to the next one on Audible, so I'm really enjoying that. And if you'd like to listen to books on Audible, click our little Audible link on the right-hand side. You get a free month and a free book that you get to keep if you don't want to stay with the program, so always a good deal. Also, Dracula. Just got through the season finale of Dracula. Whoa, was it good. Have you guys been watching Dracula at all?
Oh, I thought you meant the book.
No. Okay, so the book was good. Did you like the book?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I never read it, but my brother wrote a whole paper for school on it, so he talked to me about it.
Yeah, most people read it at school at some point, but I like the book. My wife, of course, is a huge Dracula fan because she's into vampires, and so she's not a Twilight fan because that's not really vampires by her definition. So Dracula's awesome, founding father, what vampires should be, blah blah blah. Bram Stoker's amazing. So anyway, what's cool about the series is, and I think I mentioned this show before, is it takes place in sort of Industrial Revolution, Victorian kind of that time period kind of thing, which is a little after the period of the book, but not a lot after the period of the book. And it's sort of the right time, but they're in London, but all the characters are the same. So it's kind of like an alternate version of the story. But what's great is many of the same things that happen in the book are happening now. So, and we're like, how did they even get there? It's awesome. But then, Craig, they've got like Maori warrior vampire hunters coming in.
Oh, that's
cool. Which is just awesome. So it's the whole thing is like there's all these. There's like this evil. See, the cool thing is there's like evil human order, like this sort of like this. They're not the Masons, but it's like the Masons, like this order, but they're bad, and they're the ones that actually are tormenting Dracula. But Dracula's trying to fight back against them. But it's not really clear who the good guy and who the bad guy in the situation is. But Dracula's definitely a bad guy. But these guys might actually be worse. It's kind of this cool thing. Anyway, season finale was awesome. Talked about Sherlock, fantastic. Oh, I just finished Dead Rising 3.
Oh, yeah?
Which is, I loved the end of Dead Rising 3. It was great. I actually went out and downloaded the DLC, which just came out, which is, they did this cool storytelling thing where, as you're going through the main game, basically the city is being overrun by zombies. Big surprise, zombie game. But the city's been blockaded off by the rest of the country. And the whole thing about the game that makes it tough is you have 7 days to escape the city or get bombed. And the tricky bit is, it keeps going in real time. So as you play the game, if you just stand around, time is ticking. So you actually have to keep working towards the goal, or you run out of time, the city gets nuked. what you find out, and this is not really a spoiler because it happens from the beginning, is that the government may or may not have actually intentionally infected the city. So you're trying to figure out what's going on with all this stuff, and there's a number tattooed on your neck? What's that about? What's going on? Then what's really cool, so there's this whole cool story arc, and then the DLC, you come down and you play parts of the game again, but as a different character, and you see elements of the story from a different point of view. So you actually, when there's this one scene where something happens and someone disappears, you find out what happened to them. It's kind of cool from the main game. So all these little side plots come into play even more. So it's a pretty cool kind of storytelling trick.
That's awesome.
I like that. And then now I'm playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which is Assassin's Creed 4, and wow, it's the best pirate game ever. If you like pirates, you got to play this game. I'm just pretty much, I'm at the point now where, because first of all, you're an assassin pirate. So basically, you are a ninja pirate. So no more debate, which is better, pirate or ninja? It's ninja pirate. That's the answer. It was just both put together.
Is the main character still in like his white hood outfit?
No, so
or is he dressed as a pirate?
So he's dressed as a pirate. Well, you can have different outfits. First of all, he's dressed as a pirate, but he's still under his outfit. He has his little retractable blades, and then some of his outfits, he still has the hood like on his back. And when he gets into sneaky mode, he puts the hood up. He gets all like, but it's so awesome because like it goes from like it's like every naval combat player's dream. Like the naval combat is awesome, and it's a core part of the game. It's a little simplified. Like you don't have to worry about wind direction too much, but you're on the deck of your ship, steering it and everything. You're shooting the guy with cannons. You pull up alongside in real time. You see the grappling hooks go across. You can choose what you're going to do. You can man a swivel gun and start blowing the crew off the enemy ship. You can climb the rigging, swing across, land in their rigging, dive down from above and assassinate a guy, the captain, kill the rest of the guys up, take the ship, loot the prize. It's just amazing. So anyway, very, very cool stuff. So if you like pirates. And then now my problem is it's even so cool that while you're sailing away after you've taken a prize, the sea shanties start up, and the crew starts singing sea shanties, and you're doing your thing. But then you go around this collectibles, you can unlock other sea shanties. So now I'm obsessed with finding all the sea shanties. So I'm like, anyway, it's a very obsessive game, so don't get it if you want to have any kind of time left in your life. But I really enjoyed that one. So, whew, those are all my achievements. Anybody else got any achievements left? Because I'm achieved out.
I'm all achieved out.
All right, cool. So that's achievements.
You're listening to the D6 generation. Born to gain.
Hooah! Now it's time to talk about our friends at BattleFoam.com. .com, of course. Well, if you're going to get in touch with them, it's got to be a .com.
Right, exactly right. Craig, what is the hotness at BattleFoam today? There are just, it's a never-ending parade of awesome bags and foamy goodness to store all your miniatures in their stuff is pretty much how it works over there.
It absolutely is. Now, I got to tell you a little bit about, I just came back from TempleCon, of course, and the big hotness there from BattleFoam was, of course, the X-Wing foam inserts.
Yeah.
Because X-Wing was a huge mover and a shaker this weekend at TempleCon, and those trays sold out mighty quick.
Nice. Well, that's the great thing. And what's the great thing about BattleFoam, too, is they're there at most of the major conventions. They've got their stuff there for you can look at it and see the quality difference. It's really hard to explain the difference until you see this stuff in person and understand how tough this foam is, how much of a beating it can take, and how fantastic these bags are and what high quality they are.
It's all about the bags, the stiff-sided bags, so that you can check these in your when you're flying, and your miniatures are going to be safe.
I've done it before myself.
Yeah, and they've got the new tournament bag, which is awesome. It's got multiple different ways to carry it, pouches and packets and pockets all over it for everything you could possibly need to transport your models to any tournament.
Yeah, and don't forget, they carry official licensed bags and products for all the major miniature wargaming companies. Well, most of the major miniature wargaming companies. Pretty much all of them that didn't top 25 points in stock price recently. All those other ones are there.
Hey now.
For your taking. Even does it, Malifaux? Sure. Flames of War? Yep.
Heavy Gear,
War Machine,
Mantic, Mercs, Outlaw Miniatures, Privateer Press, Puppet Wars, Spartan Games, really the list goes on and on. This group called GW. I don't know what that's all about.
Exactly right. So head on over to battlefoam.com and check it all out. And now, what's in the news? Brought to you by all of our patrons at Patreon. Become a supporter at patreon.com/the D6 Generation. And now, the news. We got a lot today, so let's get right to it. First of all, BattleTech Alpha Strike. Yeah, the new fast-playing version of BattleTech introduced, and larger model count version introduced at Gen Con this fall, is now available at Army Builder as data files, so you can go ahead and jump on in there and start building out your BattleTech force. Check that out today. Let's see. Other news. War Machine Tactics sculpts are now being previewed. Head on over to the War Machine Tactics Kickstarter page, and you'll see a great update showing a lot of previews of the different sculpts coming out for War Machine based on the new models and characters found in War Machine Tactics. Let's see. Other news. If you like naval combat games, and who doesn't? That's right. This one's for iOS. It's called Naval Tactics, coming out this spring of 2012. From the creators of Starbase Orion, which is a great handheld mobile strategy title. This game, the creator says, it has been inspired by board game classics like Wooden Ships and Iron Men. A classic indeed. That's right, Wakeland. And they're going to talk about, let's see, and this is going to be hex-based Navy combat game. Age of Sail, of course. And you're going to use points to build your fleet out and then do battle. There will be some AI in here, but it's primarily designed as a head-to-head game. Looks pretty cool. And check out PocketTactics.com for the full article on this release. Again, coming this spring or maybe June 2014. Let's see, other news. If you are a fan of X-Wing, and a fan of the classic X-Wing or TIE Fighter video game series, and who isn't? Exactly right, Wakeland. Well, Fantasy Flight Games announced recently that the next series of ships coming out for the miniature tabletop game X-Wing will include the TIE Defender. Hey! Wakeland's been waiting for that forever. Prepare to die, Rebel Scum! Exactly right. That whole new wave looks really, really cool with a bunch of ships from the video games. So check that out at fantasyflightgames.com. Speaking of major announcements, let's go back to Privateer Press for a minute here. At the recent TempleCon held in Rhode Island, Privateer Press always has a strong showing there. It likes to preview some of their big things coming out of the year, and this year was no exception. And one of the big surprises there was Level 7 Invasion, the next board game in the Level 7 series. This one, not a lot of details yet. There's kind of a teaser trailer shown during the convention. It's also available online now. But at the same time, right after the convention previewed the game, Matt Wilson and others tweeted some shots of people playing the prototypes up at Privateer Press. From what little we gained from the video and from the screenshot, it appears to be this is going to be a board game global conquest style game a la Risk. And the tagline is Unite to Save Humanity. So it appears that the aliens are indeed invading the world. Hard to tell if you are playing the aliens or the humans or some kind of hybrid force, but it looks pretty cool. So check that out coming soon. We are hopeful that it does not mean there won't be any more Level 7 Omega Protocol expansions as well, because that was a lot of fun. And speaking of Risk-style games, how about Mass Effect Risk? Wakeland's not a huge Risk fan, but he is a fan of Mass Effect, and this one might suck him in. Nothing wrong with some Reaver model plastics and some little Mako all-terrain vehicle plastics and other cool stuff from the Mass Effect video game. So if you're a fan of that and you like Risk, well, that's a no-brainer, I guess. Let's see, and speaking of other games, Cool Mini or Not has recently announced Arcadia Quest. You can check it out at arcadiaquest.com. And this looks to be another sort of chibi anime-style dungeon crawler, kind of like Super Dungeon Explorer, but it's a separate game, not a spin-off of Super Dungeon Explorer, just a separate kind of game where you're actually going through dungeons. This looks a little more like you're crawling through a dungeon than Super Dungeon Explorer. I guess Super Dungeon Explorer is more of a video game, sort of getting swarmed model. This is more of exploring each room. It's kind of hard to tell the difference, but it looks pretty cool, so check that out. Let's see. Speaking of, here's a big game release. Ticket to Ride turned 10 this year. That's right, it's been 10 years since Ticket to Ride release, and Days of Wonder has decided to celebrate with a 10-year edition of Ticket to Ride. This edition will feature the U.S. board, 50% bigger than the original printing, and it has 5 really, actually very cool-looking sets of finely sculpted custom trains in little metal tins for each faction, so the blue and the green and the red, but what each one is themed. So there's the circus train faction, and then there's the sort of the B&O faction, that kind of thing. Looks really cool. All new art on the set. It is expected to release in Europe in May and June in the U.S. and the rest of the world, and it's going to retail for $100 or about €80. So that looks into, if you're a Ticket to Ride fan, you definitely want to check that out. And we talked about dice dueling earlier, with the show with Sydney being on and all. Well, the Dice Duel expansion, while she was on the show, has been announced officially now. So the new expansion is called Die Fighter. Yes, Die is in D-I-E. And this one's going to feature, as Sydney mentioned earlier in the show, hinted at, it's going to have a fighter flown by a single person. And they're very fast to move, but they lack the shields. So there's different, the new expansion goes to 6 to 10 players, with each team now has a capital ship and then a fighter, which is kind of cool. And then there's also experimental equipment added to the game as well. Looks pretty cool. And speaking of expansions, another highly anticipated expansion shipping soon is Sentinel's Vengeance. Actually just announced that it is shipping to stores this week. Sentinels of the Multiverse Vengeance. That's right, the card game where you're a set of heroes co-oping and taking on a villain. Well, Vengeance is the latest expansion called a Mega Expansion by the creators of Sentinels of the Multiverse. This is a $29.99 expansion featuring 5 new heroes, 2 new environments, and apparently several of the key villains you'll know and love from the original games have teamed up to form the Vengeful Five. And now there's a game mode where you can fight 5 villains at a time. That sounds pretty hard. And that's what's in the news.
Hey guys, and now it's time for us to talk a little bit about our friends over at Conquistador Games.
Wow, that was loud.
That was loud.
Indeed, our friends at CQ Games are fantastic. They make some great board games that really have themes stuffed in, and it was designed all around.
It's all about theme, fast, and furious. That's
is.
what Conquistador Games are all about.
Actually, I was just tweeting with a listener today, and they were all excited. My girlfriend likes to learn when she plays games, and
don't tell Nicole about that.
and he was saying, I think she would really like the new science. Is it hard to learn? Is it easy to pick up? I said, yes, it is, and you don't have to understand. What's great about these games, you don't need to understand the history to play them and have fun.
It's teaching you.
But it's part of the game, and you just can't help but be more interested in the characters and what's going on and the history that's around the game as well. And you can just feel, the more you know about the history, the more you get out of it, but also, even if you don't know a lot, you can still get excited to get more about it.
It sparks your interest.
Right, so the great games are Road to Enlightenment, fantastic. A New Science, great about the Enlightenment, Age of Enlightenment, and how.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Tomorrow. How many people do you have to kill so the rest can survive?
And then Tomorrow, just out of the blue, kaboom! So head on over to Conquistador Games, or if you can't spell Conquistador like myself, just type in CQ Games.
That's right. They have it. They have it all covered, and that, of course, CQ Games will bring you to Conquistador Games.
His board game collection is expanding faster than the universe. His blood smells like paint. He's a fluff gamer, not a power gamer. But he's also a power gamer, so don't get any ideas. He once lost a game just to see how it feels. He's the most interesting gamer in the world. I don't always listen to gaming podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the D6 generation.
Hey, and welcome back. And now we figured, Sydney, since we have you here on the show, and of course we got Craig, just tagging along as usual. We figured we'd talk a little bit about filler games because, as we, mentioned in achievements, Space Cadets Dice Duel is indeed, well, maybe we should start up front.
I don't know. Is it a filler game,
Well,
though?
I think anything that can get done in an hour, in my humble opinion, anything that gets done in about an hour or less could arguably be a filler game. What do you guys think about that definition?
Well, people have said that they're so exhausted after playing Dice Duel that they can't continue playing games, so it may not be a very good filler game at all.
I've experienced that, actually.
All right, well, we'll factor that in.
I would also say because of the setup time, it doesn't really feel like it feels to me like you're like, okay, guys, now we're going to play Dice Duel.
I don't think there's a lot of setup time, though. There's explaining time if you never played it before, but I don't know if there's a lot of setup time.
There's dividing all the dice, and I don't know.
All right. Well, anywho, arguably a filler game.
Apparently now this whole segment's thrown right out the window.
Let's just stop.
As Russ's whole pretense is now falling apart.
So have you played a filler game before, Sydney?
I like to think.
Yes, good. So then you're more than qualified for this segment. Good. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
See,
do you have an opinion?
That's right.
Whether or not it is the same as Russ's. Excellent.
It doesn't even matter if it's the same as mine. So I thought we'd pick up some cool filler game topics here and just go through and kind of talk about, because I think it's interesting about filler games, and in fact Dice Duel as well, because it's a relatively short playing game. Mm-hmm. And that is that these games that play quick generally have lighter rule sets. So how do you design a game like that to still be fun and engaging so it's not just like a very sort of, trivial experience to the point where why did I bother playing that? I just wasted 15, 20 minutes, right? So I'm curious about this. So I think maybe the most basic example maybe of the most easy to play filler game, or certainly one of them, is Zombie Dice. Are you familiar with this game?
I played Cthulhu Dice, and I think it's just a reskin, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Then yeah.
It uses 12-sided dice, though, doesn't Cthulhu Dice?
Now I can't remember. There were a lot of dice.
It is kind of like
Yeah. I think they all come with a lot of dice. Anyway, it's a very similar game. Let's put it that way.
It is.
I get the mechanic. You roll a lot of dice.
You roll a lot of dice, which, by the way, it might be a theme in a lot of these filler games because, arguably a lot of these games roll a lot of dice. But in Zombie Dice in particular, it's a very simple press your luck game, right? So you're rolling a little pool of dice, and you are hoping to roll brains because you are, in fact, a zombie. And you're trying to get as many brains as possible. But if you roll shotguns on these dice, then if you get 3 shotguns, you're out, and you lose your turn, and you score no brains. So the question is, when do you stop and score your brains, or when do you pass the dice to the next person? And I don't know if Cthulhu Dice works the same, but Craig, we've enjoyed Zombie Dice quite a bit.
Zombie Dice and Martian Dice, which is why I would have to assume that Cthulhu Dice is just as good.
Right, so you have Martian Dice, Zombie Dice, and Cthulhu Dice. Now, Martian Dice adds a little level on top of this, but
it does.
Why do you guys think a game that simple actually is compelling and fun?
I'm not sure. That's a bad answer. No, I personally was not very much enjoying Cthulhu Dice when I played it, which is weird because I'm a big fan of a lot of the filler games that I was thinking about when I heard the topic was filler games. Yep. But I wasn't a big fan of Cthulhu Dice.
Okay, so maybe it's not compelling and fun.
and the topic takes another savage blow.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No. See, the whole goal of this is we don't have to grin everything. So, Craig, what did you like Zombie Dice?
Well, Zombie Dice for me is fun because you can literally play a whole game in about 10 minutes.
Right.
And it's fun and it's fast and it's quick and there's there's only one real mechanic, and that mechanic is pushing your luck.
Yep.
Whether or not you want to take your points or you want to push it to the next level. Sydney, is that basically Cthulhu Dice? Is it basically just a push your luck kind of thing?
Cthulhu Dice had this weird thing too about being able to send insanity to other people. But I also played, I just remembered, Dinosaur Dice, which is exactly like Zombie Dice with
there you go.
footprints and leaves instead of
sounds very close.
So here's my question: is Dinosaur Dice more compelling?
I don't know. You're just getting into like games that skin themselves in all kinds of popular things.
And I'm going for is theme. Does theme actually help? Because in Zombie Dice, I think theme does help.
Yeah.
Because if that was numbers, I wouldn't care. But because I get to yell brains at the top of my lungs, it actually is kind of fun because I'm yelling brains.
Well, I feel that games that have such simple mechanics rely heavily on the players being fun with each other. You know, like if you're just sitting there and rolling dice, it's like, up, I got 3, your turn now. That would be the most horrible game ever. But if you're all making zombie noises and like brainsing it up, then that's fun.
Right. I think that's for sure. It definitely comes down to like a game that Craig likes a lot, I know for sure, is Perudo.
That is very true.
Now, Perudo is another one of these bucket of dice games.
Yep.
Right?
Literally buckets.
But I think what makes Perudo... Now, Sydney, have you ever played Liar's Dice or Perudo before?
I played Perudo like so much when I was 5.
There you go.
I can't remember the rules, but I remember it.
That might have been a backhanded little...
Sydney's like,
No. It wasn't like...
This is good. No, this is great. This is great.
But it does say something about the household that you grew up in.
Right. It's got colors and parrots, right? So
that's right.
But with,
just like great games that I haven't played since I was a kid.
There you go. Well, so there's so many games. I think arguably, I'm sure lots of new games go through the Engelstein household.
I have no doubt.
So it's probably...
I have no doubt.
Right, because... But here's the thing about Perudo that I think is a big difference between Perudo and Zombie Dice, and that is that it's kind of press your luck, but it's really much, much higher player interaction, right? Because
it's all about bluffing.
There's actually no player interaction in Zombie Dice. It's just you against the dice.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
In Perudo, it's entirely player interaction. It's all about what you think. It's almost like a little mini poker hand game.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, which is intriguing because I don't like poker. But I think that the thing is, what Perudo or Liar's Dice does is it gives you the interaction of poker without having to worry about all the different combinations, and you're literally worried about up or down. That's it. So it kind of gives you that little adrenaline surge without a lot of the work of poker, a lot of the mental work, and well, unless you're playing with cash, there's no no serious financial repercussion.
High risk Perudo.
Right.
You could do that.
Have you played high stakes?
High stakes Perudo.
I'm guessing at age 5 you were playing high stakes.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I was
Absolutely.
like betting all
Especially
my pennies.
Engelstein house.
It'd be like, if you don't get this, you got to eat your broccoli or something, right? So, Sydney, there's two of our favorites. What's one of your favorite filler games?
Well, my favorite game of all time is a filler game, Jungle Speed.
Ooh.
Which I think is awesome.
Now, how does
and
Jungle
involves
Speed
no
work?
dice.
How does it work?
It's like everyone has a deck, and the cards have pictures on them. And if you flip up a picture that's similar, exactly the same as another person's, you both grab for the totem pole, and you try and run out of cards the fastest.
Now, if you get the totem pole, what happens? The other player takes your
then
card?
you give all the cards you've flipped up until that point to the other player, and they put it under their pile.
So are you watching all the other players flipping and hoping to see the same card you flipped first and then go for the pole?
And it's great because it's like, oh, I have a circle with 2 dots, and you have a circle with 3 dots, not technically the same,
But you thought for it, and you grabbed. Now, if you grab too fast and it's not the same, what happens?
Then you take everybody's piles and put them under yours.
See, now this one hits all the buttons. It sounds like it's dirt simple to teach.
It is.
Right? It's fast and fun. And later in my list, this brings up already, is it has manual dexterity in which you can get seriously injured.
We have a saying I play mostly at DexCon in the big Jungle Speed tournament, and we always go, "It's not Jungle Speed until you see blood."
That's right. See, that's
wow.
Perfect. That's how we are with Hex XXL.
Yes, that's true.
That's the same rule we have. If you're not bleeding, you're not
then
winning.
you're not playing hard enough.
Right. So that's awesome. So that sounds like a really fun game. See, I think that's the key to a good filler game, because you're looking at something.
It's adrenaline.
It's got to be fun and yelling and screaming. That's the best kind. And you're right. It's going to be about the players, because everybody's sitting there quietly going, "Oh, I appear to have the same card as you. I shall now slowly grab the." It's got to be all exciting, but then also it's got to be easy to teach, because it's a filler, right? So if someone's new and they want to learn, you don't want to have to spend 20 minutes teaching a 10-minute game.
I bring it into my dance recital every year.
Nice.
I've got a big following now that's like, let's play Jungle Speed. And they're like 10-year-old boys, and they pick it up really fast.
Nice. Now, that's fantastic. So is this a game that obviously appeals to non-gamers as well? Just pretty much anybody?
Well, yeah. I think it started getting all commercialized and stuff because I saw a TV commercial, and they're making themed cards. I don't know.
All right, I got to check this out. So you think are there themes on this now? Is there like the Star Wars Jungle Speed game?
Well, I can't remember what it was, but I was at a local game store and I saw a version, and it had pictures on the cards, and I was very perturbed because I'm a purist and I like the original designs.
So nice.
But
a purist.
I don't know.
Jungle Speed. I love it. So Jungle Speed. So it makes it sound like it's pretty cool. I think pictures would make it easier to spot differences, and you wanted to make it hard to spot the differences.
Yeah, well, I just am so pro with the original. Even the first reprint where they made the totem poles plastic instead of wood for safety reasons. They made the colors slightly different. The pale red is now a dark red, and it throws me off.
They ruin these games, Sydney.
They do.
You're probably old enough to remember, but whenever safety comes in, they ruin a perfectly good game, like lawn darts. Lawn darts was a perfectly good game that, they've ruined because apparently you could impale yourself with it or something. I don't understand.
This is true.
All right, so that's a great one, and I like that one too, because really, theme's not really even a thing going on there, is it? I mean, the word jungle's in it, but that's probably as far as it gets, right?
I don't know. It's just a totem pole, I guess, is why it has jungle in it.
Right. So there are some filler games though that we hinted at with Zombicide that actually pull off a reasonably decent theme. Have you played Dungeon Roll yet?
No, I have not.
Ooh, okay. Well, let's do. So Craig and I played quite a bit of Dungeon Roll.
I played last night, in fact,
and we reviewed it on the show. But the premise basically is you are doing a little virtual dungeon crawl, and the player to your left is rolling a pool of dice that is representing the things you are facing in this level of the dungeon. So you might roll a slime and an orc and a treasure chest, and you have rolled at the start of the entire adventure delve here. You've rolled some number of white dice that represent your party. You got a cleric, a wizard, a rogue, a couple paladins, and you then pair your dice off with what's in the level and try to kill as much as you can to move on to the next level. And it is very much press your luck, because if you stop at a given level, you get experience points equal to the level you made it to. But if you go on to the next level and you cannot defeat what's there with your remaining heroes, you get no points for your particular dungeon delve. And you basically go around the table 3 times, and whoever's got the most experience points at the end is the winner. So pretty simple, but the way the game, I think the magic of the game is the cool dice with the nice etching on the bits and to make it, a little artwork like monsters and heroes. But then B, the entire thing fits in a game box that is shaped and has artwork to look just like a little treasure chest. So you pop it open.
Awesome.
Exactly. And then inside the treasure chest are a bunch of tokens. So one of the things you can actually roll is a little treasure chest on the die roll. And if you get that, you can reach into the actual game box chest and pull out a token that is a random treasure you have found that you can either use as a weapon or save for experience points later. So this nice little... So it's one of those great little easy-to-teach games that has cool theme, cool box, and just enough bling on it. But the thing is, it's like $20. It's pretty cheap, too. So not a bad little deal.
No, it's awesome.
Then you can sing the Zelda I Got an Item music over and over again.
Exactly. And I love the Zelda reference. And it's another great one. It's a great filler game for like an RPG group. If you're going to go to little D&D later and you're waiting for some people to show up, you got a great theme that matches. So it's
last night I had them all doing the RPG narration, Russ, like you and I did last week.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Very fun.
So
that's fun.
We were making it so the one guy, the player rolling the dice, actually had to describe the level you're walking into each time, which is kind of hilarious. But again, that's the kind of game that I think it only works if everybody's into it.
Yeah.
And I think the downside of it is it kind of suffers a little bit from Zombicide's issue, which is it's kind of a one-player game at that moment.
Yeah.
Like it scales up to like 4, even 5 players, even of dice, but there's a lot of downtime between your turns. It can be, because if the guy gets a good run, you're kind of waiting. But it's fun to watch, so I don't know.
Well, that kind of reminds me of, like you were saying, that you were getting the person to describe what they were going through.
Yeah.
I mean, because I find that really fun. And there are some games that, are actually the game is to make up your own story. Like, have you ever heard of the game Dark Overlord?
I have heard of it. I've not played that one. I've played some other games that are similar to that, though. How does I Dark
I haven't
Overlord
played it in a really long time,
Yeah.
but the basic gist of it is you have all these cards, and you have to explain to the player who's the Dark Overlord why you weren't able to complete the mission. And it's like you play down the thing exploded, but if you don't make it colorful and explain it well enough, the Dark Overlord can cut off your head or whatever.
Nice. Well, I like that. Well, there are some other games too like that. I didn't put any on my filler game list, but they kind of count that way. There's a lot of storytelling games where you have a hand of cards and you start telling a story with the cards you play. And you'll say so a giant came to a river, and you put down a river card, and then and then you went to a castle, and you keep going until you get stuck, and you're trying to get out of your cards. But if you get stuck, or make something that doesn't make sense, it passes to the next player, and they try to go through their cards. I think it's called Fairy Tale. I can't remember that one, but that's a pretty good one.
That sounds familiar.
Have you guys played, because your Zelda reference made me think of this one, have you guys played Boss Monster?
No.
I did, actually.
So what did you think of Boss Monster, Sydney?
Well, it made my brother rage quit, but I didn't mind it too badly.
Oh, no. Well, first of all, you got to like the fluff, because it's all 8-bit graphic cards. Well, it's a card game, right?
Yeah, it was really cute.
And they're all 8-bit graphics, and there's a lot of different geek references in there, in addition to video games. Like there's John of the Daywatch, and he's got Jon Snow and all that. So there's little tiny things like that throughout the game. But the basic premise of this is it's kind of like you're the overlord, and you're building your dungeon, and these pesky heroes keep showing up. So it's kind of like Dungeon Lords, but much, much simpler, much, much faster. And you can actually play it in about 30 to 40 minutes easily. What did your brother not like?
He had a hand of cards that he could not do anything with, and he was all like, it's all luck based, it's all luck based. He was killed by adventurers in the first 30 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Because he had all these upgrade cards, and he couldn't build his dungeon.
Yeah, there isn't really good hand management in it. If you do get a bad hand, you're kind of stuck.
There was very little growth from beginning game to end game. There was very little you could grow with.
Oh, I can see that. Well, your dungeon gets a little bigger, but you're right. And there's level 2 rooms, but you're right. I mean, it's a filler in the end. There's not that much there.
Yeah,
But I liked it. I thought it was fun, but I could see your point. There's some things there. I just like the artwork. It's one of those games where you kind of either yell or you don't, I guess. What's another filler one you like, Sydney?
I'm reading this off your list, but I love Werewolf so much.
Good segue. So Werewolf's really cool because, and I think it counts as a filler, because unless you have a really, really, really lot of players, it's going to easily be done in an hour, right? One round is.
Well, I have played games of Werewolf that go all night, but whatever.
Really?
One round?
One round goes all night?
Well, we had
Or you
two
keep
rounds. 2 rounds that lasted from 8 to 2 in the morning.
Wow. So how did so how many players were in the group?
34.
Oh, okay, 34.
Well, there you go.
All right. So I guess if you tell a really long story, so if you could do
It was
a 5-minute,
awesome. We all
sounds
knew
awesome.
each other so well.
That's awesome. That's cool. So that's awesome. So Werewolf has got a lot of the things we've talked about, right? First of all, it's really simple to teach unless you got a lot of different roles going on there, and then it gets a little tricky. And then it's got a narrator, which is kind of cool. So it's kind of got a little RPG storytelling element to it, right? There's that story thing going on. And then it's really going to depend on the other players do. But what's really cool about it is there's no dice, and it's kind of a weird team co-op trader mechanic thing, right?
You don't really have to have any components at all. I used to play with my friends at school, and we'd just be like, you're tapped twice on the head, you're a werewolf,
Oh, nice. That's awesome. That's very cool. So what are your favorite elements of the Werewolf game?
I love the discussion, and I think that most groups don't discuss for long enough. If you haven't discussed who you should kill for at least 20 minutes.
There you go.
And that's why the game lasts forever.
No, I just think it's really awesome to be making all your decisions based on the group discussion and logic and it.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think a lot of people miss that element of the game. Like, a lot of people will start a game Werewolf and they'll be like, well, I have no information because no one's voted yet. I haven't heard any rustling at night or whatever. So I'm just going to pick a person at random because there's no point. But I think a big part of the game is having discussion and it almost becomes poker because you're trying to have a discussion long enough to see if someone has a tell that they're lying to you, even before you've actually done an actual vote or anybody's really died.
I mean,
right?
Just by talking to people and hearing their reasoning, you can judge if you trust them or not for later times. And there's also the thought of, should I vote? Should I not vote? How will it reflect on me? How will it reflect on the other people who voted?
Yeah.
So even if you're good, you're never allowed to stop thinking.
Yeah. And now, what are some of your favorite roles, and what roles do you not like? I mean, how many of the sort of the beyond the basic couple roles of werewolf, villager, maybe the obvious ones, hunter and seer? Do you like to have a lot of different roles? Or do you like to keep it kind of purist?
Well, yeah. So I told you that I introduced it to my friends at school. Yeah. So we used to play in a group of 6, which is not good for playing werewolf, but they liked it, and it was better than, I don't know, Truth or Dare or whatever normal girls do. And they were always so upset if they got villagers. So we would play with 6 super powered cards,
nice.
And it was awful.
Wow.
Because we had Cupid, who links 2 characters together, so if one dies, the other dies. So everybody died in the first round.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, my kids are the same way. So my daughters, I did this once at a birthday party. One of my daughters is like, I really want to play. I want a game day at my birthday party. So, and she had like 15 kids over, and they're all between like the ages of like 6 and 10, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I'm going to try this werewolf thing with a bunch of 6 and 10-year-olds and see what happens. And it was the biggest hit ever, to the point where they won it every time. And initially I just did it very simply, because it was only had like 15 kids, which is a lot, but not a huge game of werewolf, right? So I did that, and I just had villagers and werewolves, nothing fancy. Mm-hmm. Then my daughters discovered that there's this really advanced werewolf, and the same as you guys. All we want to be is like the advanced characters. We just want to be all these crazy people and the vampire and the Dracula. And so I have the ultimate werewolf one, right? The one with all the crazy characters. They love it, but I find that gets really hard for the storyteller. Because you have to start remembering all these different roles and all the different rules, and you got to remember. And I can only imagine like a really big game, like you were describing, like 35, 40 people.
Yeah.
How do you track the 16 different steps you have to do to handle the hunter and the hunter's easy, but like the seer, then the little kids got to peek, and then there's the Cupid. Who did the Cupid pick at the beginning of the game?
I'm not going to lie. I have seen them write it down.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Write down the list of things they have to go through.
I think you have to. But it's fun. It can become like an RPG level event if you really get into it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some groups that they just say, that person died, discuss. And if the group is good at discussing, that's fun. But in a smaller group that's less hardcore about it, it's more exciting if it's like, you all wake up and last night Steve was going for a walk and everyone's like, oh, is Steve going to die or is someone else going to die,
Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, it's true. If you got a good storyteller, that can be a lot of fun. So that's a good one.
That's where the fun is for me.
All right, Craig, you need to bring up Hex XL.
Okay.
Because I think this is a fantastic filler game, and I need you to describe to us why it is so.
Well, Hex XL is another one that I don't think is a filler game. But actually, you know why I don't think they're filler games in my head?
Why not?
And I think I'm wrong, is that because once you play it, you're going to play multiple times.
Right.
So it ends up taking up like a whole slot in an evening. Hex is awesome, I think, because it's engaging and it's quick, and your brain has to constantly be working with your hand management. But the whole game is designed to burn through your hand very quickly, and then you're done as soon as you don't have the right card to respond when the hex comes at you. But the thing that makes it a violent game is the whole grab element that was added with the XL.
Oh my God.
Yes.
And, I broke a table.
Well, that beats anything we have.
I was at DexCon, and the last one rolled to the other side of the table, so I may have accidentally belly flopped and broke the table we were playing.
We had one game we were playing where Cody from the old podcast Game On with Cody and John were there. This is at Extra Life one year, and they were made for the grab, and one of the sticks literally landed in Cody's crotch. Now, he's already holding one, so John is next to him looking down in Cody's crotch, and Cody's going, don't you do it. So that was pretty
No,
funny.
actually, he said, go ahead.
Go ahead, right.
And for a lifetime, he was like, I don't think I want to do that. And then when he finally went for it, he just opened his legs and it fell to the floor.
Right.
And when it hits the floor, it's dead. So.
Yeah, that's a great game. And again, for those who don't know, the theme here is essentially you're a table of wizards, right? Just kind of shooting spells at each other that are mostly harmless. And then you have a hand of cards that basically allows you to cast hexes at each other or counter the hexes or move the hexes left and right and things like that until you can't do the proper thing and you get hit by the hex and you lose points. You have a little point meter. But as Craig mentioned, there's these sticks in the middle, and when things happen, you have to grab for the sticks, and that's when the things get interesting. So a very fun, quick game. I like that one a lot, too. It's a good one. Have you guys played... so there are some good co-op ones, too. I was thinking about this. Have you guys played Forbidden Island?
No, I have not.
No.
So Forbidden Island's a cool little co-op game. The basic premise here, and it's very quick. What's interesting about this game that I like a lot is the component quality. So it's less than $20. I want to say it's like $15 to $18. It's in a nice metal tin. You pop it open, and it's got a great little plastic insert that holds these 4 sort of ancient, sort of Indiana Jones wants to grab them kind of relics. There's like these different elements of earth, air, and fire or whatever. And then there's all these tiles, and you lay the tiles out in a matrix on the table, and they represent different areas on the island. So there'll be like an airy and a little open plain and a desert. But the problem is the back of these tiles, you flip them over, and they're water. And what happens is as you play, and each player gets a pawn, as you play, there's a deck of cards you flip over that indicate how much things start flooding and which areas start to flood. And they flip over they start on their normal side, they flip over to partially flooded, and then they go away. And you need to get around and get to all the parts of the island to gather the 4 relics you want to get, and then get back to the helicopter and get off before the island sinks and you all die. So it's either you all win or you all lose. It's kind of like a very simple version of Pandemic. It's a great little game, got really nice mechanics. It's mostly card-driven, but it's really nice components. Plays really, really fast. My kids love it. I've played with a lot of gamers. They also like it. Very great little game, and there's not a lot of pure co-op filler games. It's kind of a nice twist, especially if you're trying to set up for an evening of a larger game where you're going to be friendly and you want to have more of a friendly spirit going on with your gaming group instead of maybe a more competitive one.
I feel like I did play this, actually, with my cousin, who's like 9, and it sounds really familiar about helicopters and flooding places. I didn't remember the name, though.
And the characters have different roles. So one of the characters is a pilot, one of the characters is a scuba diver, and it's kind of like, two different things.
We lost so horribly.
It's not easy. You can easily lose that game if you're not careful, So that's a good one. So before we run out of time, because we're already getting along here, Sydney, I did want to ask you a bit about Dice Duel. Because I know you obviously worked with your dad on this game, and I think it's a filler game only because it's relatively easy to teach, and I think it's really easy to teach. I mean, it's a little more complicated than zombie dice, but and it plays fast. I think of most games that take less than an hour. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah,
I think so.
I would say around half an hour.
Yeah, pretty much, unless you really are, because you can't. The game almost encourages you to go fast. Like, it doesn't really reward thinky play, really. And then also, it's got lots of dice, which most of the games we talked about. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, one of our listeners, Adam, who is now a patron, by the way, thank you, Adam, he asked us, what's the scoop with, he listened to your dad talk on the show about Space Cadets, the original Space Cadets, and how one of the things Space Cadets was trying to solve was this idea that co-op games always devolve into one player sort of telling everybody what to do, but Space Cadets solves that problem by making a captain whose job it is to tell everybody what to do, which is cool. But Dice Duel is interesting because it takes the same theme, but it takes it from a pure co-op game to a team versus team game. And was that intentional, or what was the thinking behind that?
Intentional to make it a team versus team game?
Yeah.
Well, that was the whole point of it, was a lot of people were wanting the original Space Cadets. They were trying to make it so that it could be played ship on ship, but with the whole Space Cadets thing. And so we were like, maybe we can do it. And then we're like, no, it's definitely not possible. And then we were just simplifying, and that's what came out.
And that's when the dice popped out?
And then we're like, what if we just take all the mechanics away and make it super simple? And then it, kind of became a new game instead of a version where you could play ship on ship.
Yeah, that's cool. Craig, what do you think about Dice Duel as a filler game?
Well, going back on what I said earlier about it not being a filler game, I think it's great on several different reasons as a filler game. First of all, it's not. It's got the adrenaline. And it's got the action and the frenetic action because you're constantly rolling the dice and you're focused on your one job. The whole thing is going to be over in about a half an hour, most likely, and you're immediately like, okay, let's play again. After 2 or 3 plays, you're not going to play anything for the rest of the day. But when you're in the moment, you want to play 2 or 3 more times. And I think that's just which then, of course, makes it a non-filler game, a filler game that grows beyond filler game. But I think it works as a filler game because it's very simple. Like, what you're looking for. It's right there on your little card. Whatever dice rolls you're looking for. You're communicating with other people, so it has the social interaction both on your side and on the opponent's side. I think it kind of brings in all of these different elements of filler games all into one game is one reason that I think I like it so much. In fact, everybody's starting to talk about TempleCon, which is in a few weeks. And the one thing that everybody told me I needed to bring last night as I was leaving was my copy of Dice Duel.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Craig. It brings, and I think, Sydney, you and your dad did such a great job on this. It really, what I like about it is it has a really large player count. I mean, and it's one of those games that actually shines with more players, which I think for filler games isn't always the case. I mean, we mentioned Werewolf, which is a really nice, large player count game. But as you mentioned, Sydney, as soon as you put 30 players in there, it goes from filler game to all evening. Right?
But it was fun.
Yeah, but it's still awesome. Don't get me wrong. But Dice Duel handles 8 players, right, ideally. And it gets it done in 30 minutes, right, which is great. So and it has all that yelling and screaming and carrying on, which is awesome, too. Do you guys find, Sydney, have you found most of the folks that play it use it as a filler, or do they use it as Craig suggested, that's what they're going to do for the night, and then they're going to pass out?
I found that it's pretty good filler. I mean, I think it works well as a filler, especially for people who've played it before. Because if it's your first time playing it, it's kind of a different experience because it's not so quick to teach as it would be if everyone could just pick it up and go, or you just need to teach one person. Right. But if it's a group that's played it like a bunch of times, it's kind of like, let's throw in one round of Dice Duel. I thought of this great strategy or something. Then it could be a great filler game.
Yeah, I think I think of it as a filler only because your dad taught it to me while standing in line at PAX. So it's kind of like, this is totally, I'm on the floor playing Dice Duel, so this is awesome. But I also think it's also rare, and this is, I'm not just saying this because you're on the show. I think it's a fantastic game, but I think one of the things that makes it so fantastic is most filler games, as you mentioned, like one of your favorites is Jungle Speed. There's not a lot to Jungle Speed. It's a very fast, fun game, and that's part of its charm. But here you got Dice Duel, which is actually emulating successfully something that's pretty complicated. 2 starships fighting, and you got shields and mines and torpedoes and all that going on. And then you have all these epic stories that come out of it, and all these great things that happen, and all these great laugh out loud moments and things that happen later. And yet it's still a 30-minute game, which I think is just the quintessential perfect filler, where it has all this great theme, all this great fun, all the great dexterity, all the yelling and screaming, and a great story, but it still gets done in under an hour. So I think you did a good job with that one.
Well under an hour usually.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you.
So thank you, Sydney, for A, coming on and talking to us about fillers, but B, giving us, with your dad, Space Cadet Dice Duel, because it is an awesome game.
That's right.
You are welcome.
So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back later to talk about Sails of Glory with Sydney.
Avast ye hearty, or be hearty.
You designed a space combat game, which is kind of naval. So now we're going to take you to the high seas. See how that works?
That's right.
Super cool.
That's called a segue. See how we do that?
That's a beautiful segue it was, Russ.
It was until I ruined it by saying segue. See, as soon as you do that?
That's right. See,
Not a Segway is the electric thing with the wheels.
Yeah, that was invented.
Designed right down the street.
Yeah, right
here.
down the street from Craig, actually. Right in Manchester, New Hampshire. So
Yep.
there you go. All right.
Okay.
Back in a
we'll
bit.
be back.
You're listening to the D6 generation. Born to game.
Well, now it's time to talk about our friends at War Games Soldiers and Strategy Magazine, the magazine that is all about historical miniature wargaming.
And more.
But really, it is so much more, and it's really good for any miniature wargamer, anyone who's ever put brush to model, cannot help but ooh, ah, and appreciate the sheer awesome that are the dioramas and scenes that are presented in this magazine.
It's really kind of foolish, actually. There's just each magazine is so packed full of awesome stuff. Almost all of it is historical, of course, but you've got models, you've got terrain, you've got of course, you've got the theme of every issue, and of course, the current issue 70, as we said last time, is the Wars of the Successors, the legacy of Alexander. And I am just flipping through it, and Russ is right. The quality of the photography. I mean, every magazine is a little bit of a catalog at the beginning, where it's got actual 100% one-to-one scale pictures of the models that they're reviewing, and of course, it's a whole array of different manufacturers, and then it's got different. You've got Rick Priestley has a regular column. Then you've got, like I said, you've got the terrain, you've got missions, and it's not all ancients and Alexander this time around. Of course, there's all kinds of other stuff going on too. V for Victory, the assault on Pegasus Bridge, which of course is meant to use that cool new terrain that just came out. Really, I mean, they've got so much synergy with so many people in the industry. There's almost no model wargamer who could not use this magazine. There's something in here for everybody, whether it's comparing and contrasting different types of tanks and different tank models, to tactics and strategy, to the diorama that Russ was referring to. There's a how-to in every issue that shows you exactly how they made the diorama that's featured on the cover.
Exactly
and
right.
It's craziness.
So what you want to do is head over to WSSmagazine.com and be sure, if you decide to pick up some back issues or get a subscription, make sure you put in the code D6G to save 15%.
That's right.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone. This is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakelin and check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. This week's shout out brought to you by all our patrons at Patreon. Become a supporter at patreon.com/the D6 Generation. So there's this game that everybody's been talking about that I have not played. In fact, I have to fess up that not only have I not played the game, but I haven't even seen it played or looked at it, or other than screenshots that are all over the internet. I know nothing about it, and now it's gone. So I feel like I missed the boat. That game is Flappy Bird. Now, I know this is just a silly little game. It's, along the Angry Birds line of things, and it's nothing groundbreaking or amazing or setting a new standard in, mobile gaming or anything like that. But it was a game that all of a sudden it seemed like everyone was talking about it. Everybody was playing it. You just kept hearing, oh my gosh, I got to get a better score. And it's so cool. And it's, oh my gosh, it's the most frustrating game I've ever played. And it's just amazing. And the guy who's invented the game is making $1 bajillion. He's, getting so many times he's downloaded. And then it was a scandal like, oh, he's just inflating those downloads to make it look cooler so that more people will buy. But everyone was playing it. And I was really busy at this whole time this was going on. And I didn't play it. And I kept thinking, okay, I should probably just play this so I know what this is. Like, I'm not going to get addicted to this because I'm just not that way with those kinds of games. I'll play it for a little while and I'll move on. And I kept thinking, I should play this. I should check it out. I should know what it is. I feel like it is coming up all over the internet and everyone's talking about it. I should play it. And then all of a sudden, poof, it was gone. And that was the big news. It's gone. The creator took it down because he said it ruined his life. Now, I'm not sure how making a ton of money on a game that you've created actually ruins your life, but I'll just have to take his word for it since I've never actually been in that situation. However, it remains, if you didn't download it, you can't download it. Now, I hear that there's Flappy Bird imitators out there, but they're not quite the same. It's like buying that knockoff watch. It's not quite like the other ones. And maybe it doesn't hold up quite the other way. So I'm thinking, I don't want to play knockoff. Then that's worse almost than not playing the real thing. So instead, here's this huge game that everyone was talking about that has all these memes popping up everywhere. I keep seeing, pictures with cute little quotes and things underneath it. I don't get them. I mean, I have no clue what everyone's talking about because I didn't play. And I feel a little out of the loop, like I've failed as a nerd. I should know how to play this. So I don't know. I might have to find somebody who has it on the phone and just be like, can I just see you play it? I won't mess up your scores or whatever, but can I please just see how this game works? Because how can I not know what this game is? It's like, it just feels like a huge hole in my geek knowledge. That, or I can buy a phone that already has it installed, which are selling on eBay and stuff for tons of money too. You'd have to be as rich as the guy who made the game to afford these phones. Although I guess if I had it on my phone and somebody was willing to pay me thousands of dollars for it, I'd be like, here, take my phone, please. For a couple $1,000s, you can have my phone. You can have my Flappy Bird score. You can do whatever you want with it. I would move on. But sadly, no Flappy Birds for me. And I don't actually know anyone, despite its apparent redonkulous popularity, that has it. So I suppose I'll be on a quest to try to find somebody somewhere that has this installed on their phone when I happen to walk by them. Then I, too, can learn what's so addictive about Flappy Bird.
Now it's time to talk about our friends at miniaturemarket.com. That's singular, Craig. There's no S in Miniature Market.
Yes, it is not miniaturesmarket.com. It is miniaturemarket.com.
That's right.
And they sell more than just miniature.
They do. The thing to remember at Miniature Market, and remember, leave the S out for savings, Miniature Market has a fantastic, unbelievable selection.
Enormous, some might say.
Board games, Pokemon cards, collectible card games,
role-playing
miniatures,
systems,
RPGs, that crazy Magic card game the kids are all playing, all of it.
Yeah, and of course, if you're looking for anything to do with Z-Pocalypse, they have got it in spades. They've got the entire wave. If you're looking for a whole zombie theme, you've got Zombie Dice Deluxe Edition.
Yeah. The classic Woods Kids D&D miniatures, bam, they got those too. Pretty much, you name it, they've got it at Miniature Market. And what I love is how easy it is to get around the website, the great easy navigate menu structure, just great pictures for all their games, just really really fantastic website. Head over there today. Make sure you let them know the D6G sent you. Check them out on the Facebook page, too, and like them over there as well.
Absolutely. You got to check out because they've got sales and stuff that go on all the time.
Yeah.
And if you were watching carefully, they just moved warehouses and had a huge sale. So it pays to pay attention to the miniature market feed.
And don't forget also the deal of the day always going on the left-hand side. It's crazy good every day. It's different. You should be checking them out daily. But you know, Craig, right? How can you not buy one of those right now? I'll take 6.
Oh, I'm kidding. I'm going to take 2.
All right. MiniatureMarket.com.
I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute. Good morning. I'm your host, Rafe Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute. Well, another Gen Con has been attended, and successfully attended, I must say at that. There's kind of a little bit of controversy over whether attending TempleCon makes sense. So many of us that go down are local game players, and so there's this thought sometimes of like, hey, why did I travel all this way to just play games with the same people that I know and love? Well, I have a different opinion of that. Number one is you get to sleep over. So that's always fun. So you can play really late into the night, of course, and wake up in the morning, and you can have one of my favorite times of the day, breakfast. Love breakfast. Thanks to Matty Alex, by the way. He was my wingman on this trip, and a fine wingman he was. Bored with me with a couple of trials and tribulations I had with my car again, or let's just say that I wanted to be safe this time with it. And also, I was like waffling, pun intended, over what I wanted for breakfast. He's like, you want pancakes? Oh man, they were the best pancakes I ever had. So that was fun. But yeah, going back to the main thrust, I was hanging out with Ryan Crowley and was talking to him about it, and we just think it's fun. Even though we're all local and even though it's close by, it's fun to just hang out and have fun more than just an 8-hour stretch. So for that, I think TempleCon is just fine, and it is always fun to kind of see the social mixture, see what kind of costumes and costume wear that people are wearing, so that was cool too. I pulled the trigger, and I also bought my first piece of coswear, and it was something I wanted to get last year. It's what I call a gamer vest. It was just like a vest. Kind of with leather buttons and stuff like that. And I looked at them last year, and I looked at the price, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. The first person I ever saw wear cosplay, which I thought was just the awesome thing, was Gregory Silverman. And he had this hat made out of beaver fur that was like this green color that I can't even, it wasn't Kelly green, it wasn't lime green, it was just this really cool, like, leprechaun green. But the hat was like a bowler hat, but it was like 4 foot high, or at least that's what it seemed, because he's like a big dude. And he wore that around TempleCon the first time I met him a couple, 3-4 years ago. So anyway, ever since I saw him wear that super cool hat, I said, I got to get me a piece of costume wear. So walked into this clothier shop, tried on a leather vest, and it was cool. It was leather. It kind of went up to the hip bones, and for whatever reason, I was like, meh. And it was the one I looked at last year, actually. So this year, I went into another clothier, and this was kind of made out of some denim. It actually kind of looks like Carhartt material, if you can imagine that. And it's more of a jerkin, and it goes down to mid-thigh. And it has got this leather trim and leather buttons and kind of pockets and inside pockets. And for whatever reason, man, I just really liked it. So, of course, with any major purchase, I slept on it. And then the next day, I bought it and wore it around. And it was weird because people in the convention were, like, looking at me, and I wasn't used to that, actually. So, and it doesn't even, like, stick out that much, really. Like, at a quick glance, again, it just looks like you're wearing some Carhartt vest. If you look closer, you'll see the leather trim and the buttons, and then it goes down to your mid-thigh. So that was pretty cool. Let's see, what else? Oh, people have been asking me, hey, Rafe, how's your gamer cleanse been going? And so here's the update. I actually think it's been going really, really well. Now, the big joke, haha, on me is Russ and Craig are going to get their points. I have played more than 2 games. That's basically because I'm super honest and a technicality occurred. Now, that being said, and I'll explain the technicality, after TempleCon, it wouldn't have been fun to restrict myself to 2 games. But the way I look at it is Craig and Russ's points for next year don't count because my UA Rosenberg medieval game didn't count. So we're really just even. But here's what happened with my Gamer Cleanse. So if those of you that don't know, my goal was to not always turn around and play a new game. I was just getting tired of it. I was getting tired of not learning the rules of games that I liked and enjoyed. So I had decided I wasn't going to play any new games in 2014 except for 2, factoring in Gen Con. Well, here's what happened to blow it. While I had made that Gamer Cleanse proclamation, I had bought Caverna and the new UA Rosenberg game. And this game is just incredible, folks. All of my friends who like Euro games like this, it's even people that don't like Agricola like it. And I had read on Board Game Geek that Caverna was the same game and the same rules, excuse me, as Agricola. So I thought it was just an overskin of Agricola, and that I was kind of buying, an expansion, if you would. Well, when you play the game, it is not Agricola at all. Oh, sure, if you know Agricola, you know how to play Caverna, but the game's completely different. So here I was, if I'm being honest and being truthful, which I am, I'm already 1 game down in my Gamer Cleanse. So I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. So actually, the same night that I played Caverna, Matt Alex had Rampage, and I didn't play it with the goal to see, was I going to stick to this plan. But then I can't even remember what it was. A couple of weeks later, I think somebody's like, hey, Ray, if you want to play Rampage. And the game is so simple, it's not going to clutter my brain with rules that I realized, this frustrates my own purpose. The purpose of it is not to play games that were going to clutter my head. And so I went ahead and played Rampage, told Russ and Craig, and that's that. But I still stick to my proclamation and principle. And guess what, guys? The show made it into like a funny ha-ha game with points. That's not my goal. My goal was, like I said, to just stick to games I know and play, and that's what I've been doing. So it's been fun in that regard. And as far as the games that we played at TempleCon, I do believe I'm going to try to pop onto the show and talk about TempleCon, so I'm not going to go through my gamer rundown there. But there was something else I wanted to bring up that's been interesting and fun. I want to talk about my reaction to the Privateer Press announcement at TempleCon. I absolutely just loved it. Now, everybody knows I'm a fanboy, so if you want to say, oh, he's just biased, go ahead. But I just thought it was cool. I wasn't disappointed. You can catch it live on one of their live streams. I don't know where, man. You got to go to their website and you'll find it. But people were disappointed, I guess, because it didn't release anything super shocking. But I saw really cool art renderings and sculpts, especially of Sorsha, of the new game, the computer game coming out. I saw a really cool sculpt of a Scorn Warcaster riding like a rhinoceros. That was freaking awesome. And the new Mercenary faction, which I tweeted out, I thought was really cool, too. It's kind of this horror-themed with these dregs and these brutes, and the dregs walk around enslaved by the Warcaster, which is this skinny, enfeebled type of Warcaster, and the Warjacks aren't Warjacks. They're these big monstrosities, again, with these metal helmets and clamped over their heads where they're enslaved. It's not my theme. I'm not a horror guy, and that's the kind of feel of this. But I really liked the look of the models. I would love playing against them. And they're incorporating some new rules, which I had a mixed reaction on, which is that, these monstrosities don't have cortexes. They have brains. So that means any of the cortex affecting abilities won't work. The other thing is they're not Warjack. They're monstrosities. So anything that says affects a Warjack won't work. So again, I was sort of like, ugh, man, another layer of rules. But then again, that's what keeps the game fresh, and that's what I ultimately like about War Machine. As a matter of fact, that's my one disappointment for TempleCon was I brought my War Machine armies. I was ready to play. I had a list built. I had the new Butcher with the 2 Argai painted, and now, granted, it was Butcher 1. It wasn't Butcher 3, but still, I could, obviously field it, and I had my Argus painted for my Circle Force. But I really wanted to play. None of my regular War Machine opponents weren't there. Russ wasn't there. Andy wasn't feeling good. And Doc and his crew didn't make it over to TempleCon this time. So, yeah, I could have played Strangers with Iron Arena. I could. But I voted to just play games with my friends and go to lunch with them and take long lunch breaks and stuff like that. And that worked out for the best. But I did have to say that I left itching that I didn't play any War Machine. So I think maybe next time I might force myself to sign up for something. You know, they did have other tournaments other than just hardcore, which I may look into. So, and there was lots of Flames of War, too, and that looked really fun to play. So I missed doing that. So, yeah, I missed my miniature gaming, but other than that, I felt TempleCon was a success. Hey, if you have any thoughts or you want to email me, you can email me at hollywood@the D6Generation or find me on Twitter. I'm the D6G on Twitter. Excuse me, I'm, D6G Hollywood on Twitter. And I still have my blog floating around out there at jimmyjango.com. Chat with you all soon.
All right, now it's time to talk about our friends at Game Salute. What are you giggling about, Craig?
They're awesome, and I'm reading testimonials that are awesome and funny and heartwarming at the same time.
Give us a heartwarming one.
A heartwarming one would be, wow, Pixel Lincoln absolutely sets the standard for how to produce a deck builder. That's not very heartwarming.
No, heartwarming, but a great testimonial.
Want to let you know the game arrived in perfect condition. Thanks again for your excellent customer service. I have told every gamer I know about you how you handled the situation. Thanks again.
Nice. And here's the thing now, if you want to check out Game Salute, first of all, go to gamesalute.com. That's the first thing to do. Yeah. But then after that, check out their online store as well, because what's great about Game Salute is they get these games published, they get them into the store owners, right to the stores. They also have a great online store as well if you want to. And when you go there, make sure you put in the code D6G141. See, you heard it here on episode 141. See how that works? D6G.
Yep.
141. And you save up to 40% depending on what you're getting.
Absolutely.
So very, very cool. So, Craig, what games are on their website right now? What's the hotness floating?
Well, we're looking at Jack and Pot Anything Goes.
Nice.
Scoopa. Now, of course, I'm looking for the one that's like a really big one, right? Well, you got Blackwater Gulch, Area 1851
Keyflower
is in the works.
Yeah.
Relic Expedition. I mean, seriously, this list is just getting bigger and bigger with every passing day.
It's endless. The only way to be sure to know what's going on there is head over to gamesalute.com and check out all the hotness over there today.
Yep.
Worlds to conquer, foes to vanquish, violence to sow, and medieval crops to reap. The whole world of gaming at your fingertips. The D6 Generation. Born to game.
Hey guys, welcome back. And now I am super excited about this review. This is something that... What?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Yeah, that's Russ supporting me in my super excitedness.
We're playing
this was a Kickstarter
of glory, and I'm gonna fire cannons at you. Oh, sorry.
He's been waiting 2 weeks to do that.
I've been working on that song for 2 weeks, people.
We are talking about Sales of Glory.
All right, yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to do that anymore. All right.
Good.
So this was a Kickstarter by Ares Games, and these are the guys who first started Wings of Glory, which, of course, was that World War I airplane game, and then it went to a World War II airplane game, and then, of course... they went through Fantasy Flight, and then Fantasy Flight distributed them for a while, and then they got rid of them and started X-Wing. All of these are games of a similar type,
right? Meaning that they have plotted movement with cards.
Exactly, they're plotting. You're plotting movement in advance using cards or templates in the case of X-Wing.
But also, Wings of Glory and Sails of Glory also usually have cool models, as does X-Wings.
Exactly. Yes. Cool pre-painted models is a key to this whole structure.
Right.
So it was published in 2013 via Kickstarter. More a little bit on that later. Published and distributed by Ares Games and is available. Hopefully, by the time you listen to this, it'll be available. It hasn't quite hit the street yet because they're trying to fulfill the last few supporters from Kickstarter.
Right.
It will retail when it comes out. The starter box is going to retail $89.90. I don't know where they came up with their pricing structure. And it's designed by Andrea Angelino and Andrea Menini. based on the Wings of Glory, like I said, and which was designed by Andrea Angelino and Pier Giorgio Paglia. So another guy. There's a lot of moving parts, so bear with me. This game really, once you start going, and I think, Russ, you would agree with me, once you start going, the game kind of starts just like taking care of itself, a lot of the tracking stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of makes sense, but you've got to know what to do in order to get the momentum going.
Right.
So here we go. First, the components. The box is beautiful, and it's intriguingly looks very much like the X-Wing box, although it's much bigger in that it has a window, a clear window, so you can see all the pre-paints. Although they were a little smarter because the clear plastic of the window is actually glued to the box itself rather than an insert, so you can still use the box to hold your stuff in it.
Yep.
And now the components. 63-page full-color rulebook.
Yes.
Decent table of contents, no index, however, although it has an enormous list of Kickstarter supporters that looks like an index and can confuse you the first time you look at it.
If I back a game, I will gladly have my name not listed if I can have an index. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a price I would be more than
63 pages, that's a lot of book for no index. Just saying.
Yeah. Although I did find my name in the list, and I was like, ooh, that's me.
I'm in the book.
Okay.
Did you highlight it, hang it on your wall?
No, I did not. No. So you get 4 pre-painted ships, 2 men of war and 2 frigates, French and British, because we're talking about Sails of Glory. Oh, I lied.
I thought you were going to do that again.
Napoleonic Wars is is the subtitle.
Yeah.
You get 4 ship cards and base cards, which are just like tiny little playing cards. They're kind of like the FFG Corey cards, the little small cards.
Yep.
One has a picture of your ship on it and all the historical stats. And one is actually a little piece of paper that sort of slips into the ship base that has a lot of detailed information that we'll talk about later. 4 ship logs, which are basically they're unique to each ship, and they sort of fold out. They're little puzzle pieces, and they fit into your ship card. Your ship log that's going to basically track all of your stuff as you play. 4 maneuver decks, again, little tiny decks of cards, and we'll talk later about how you move using those maneuver decks. But there are 4 separate decks of little cards. 4 ship mats. These are the generic, basically tracking mats that let you track everything from damage to the orders that you're using to the ammunition and your sail plan and stuff like that. Over 600 tokens, counters, and markers.
That's a lot of cardboard.
That's an awful lot of cardboard. That's where the game starts to get, like I'm saying, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
That's how you track damage. It's how you track orders. It's got islands and all kinds of other stuff. You have 1 wind gauge, which would be like the compass, and it shows you where the wind is. Very, very important because there's a very cool dial mechanic that also tracks the wind strength and everything else. 2 attitude indicators, which are very innovative, very cool. 3-dimensional things. They're on a stand and they stand up. There's like a
That's
vein.
my favorite mechanic, actually.
What's that?
That's my favorite mechanic. I love how they did this.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It tracks the wind direction and how it's going to affect your sails based on the sail plan that you've got up at any given time, how much canvas you're riding on, and it's very, very simple. It's like boom, you put that down, you look at it. We'll talk a little bit in a little while on how to use it, but it's very, very simple, and yet takes fully into account historically the direction of the wind and how it would affect the ship. You get 2 of those, so 1 for each side. Then you get 2 combat rulers, which are pretty much standard for all of these types of games. Russ, you've played a couple times now. What's your thought on the quality of the components?
Well, so I want to be careful here because I'm not really sure where the Kickstarter bling starts and stops and what you get in the box for $89 starts and stops. But
okay, you get all of what I just said.
But because you had extra bags, right? Extra fuzzy bags.
I did, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, let me tell. Okay, I'll give you what the Kickstarter came with.
Yeah.
And where you can find it, because some of this stuff is available now.
All right.
Any laser cut stuff was not was Kickstarter, and in my opinion, was wasted baggage.
Okay.
Because it lacks the graphic design, color coordination with all of the other cool stuff, and some of the stuff doesn't even have an in-game use. It's just like, oh, that'd be neat if we had some fog.
Right.
There are terrain packs with islands and shoals and coastal batteries and stuff. Those are cool, but they bring the game to a whole different level that I don't even know if I'm ever going to get to.
It gets hard, yeah.
And yeah, those packs will cost anywhere from $13 to $20 for the bigger packs. The playmat is an extra piece.
That's cool.
It's gorgeous. It's made like a mouse pad, but it's really, really big. And it's got plotting lines that are cleverly incorporated into the cool design, which make plotting the wind attitude much easier for your ships. That's going to retail for $35. And then the damage bags that you're talking about, which were very high quality velour fabric bags that have a really cool label on them for all the different types of damage. There's 5 different types of damage in the game. It's 5 different chits. There's A through E. They're labeled with a letter. And these damage bags are black, and they have the letter with the logo and the artwork and everything right on them.
So
those don't come with the original game, and a full set of those is going to cost you about $25.
So no bag comes with the game?
So no bag comes. So you're going to have to use like cups, like Dixie cups or something.
So Randy has the game, but he had the 4 bags, but not the bags for the chain shot and the other stuff. The
chain shot and the grape shot.
So, and what I found was I love the bags. I think the bags are an essential part of making the game fun, and so so I would like to see those in the core game. So a little disappointed those aren't in the $89 game, but the ships look really, really nice. It's funny, when I saw it on Kickstarter, I was worried about the picture of the ships and the painting quality and the bases with all the lines on it. Kind of. Yeah. I couldn't get excited about it, but seeing them in person, I really liked them. I think they look great.
Well, there's almost like an Arcane Legions element to it, because the base has a lot of mechanics going on the base the ship sits on.
So, but I liked it. I thought the components were really, really nice. The 4 ships look great. I love the card stock. I like the mats were cool. The color, the rulebook looked great. The colors look great. All the cards were nice. So I think and I love the wind tokens where they stand up and the wind gauge and everything. So I think for $89, you're getting a lot of great stuff, and not to mention the 600 tokens. So I think it's a pretty good deal for what you're getting. I wish there were bags in there, though. I'm a little disappointed the bags aren't in there, though. I will say that.
Yeah, well, I've always been disappointed in that aspect of these types of games that don't come with a way to track or to store the damage, so when you pull it out.
Right.
Sydney, does that sound like a good deal for you for all that stuff for basically $90? Does that sound like a deal?
Well, I don't participate much in the finances of my family, but it sounds pretty awesome. I like the standing up gyroscope thing. That sounds pretty cool.
All right.
So you think you could convince your dad he has to go buy this? That's what you have to figure out.
Oh, I'm sure he already has. He has a tendency to just buy things.
Probably downstairs in your new game room he built out there. I saw his pictures on the Facebook of that. So maybe you can sneak down there and see if he's already got a copy. Maybe it's probably down
Excellent. There. Yep. So I would agree, Russ. I think it's actually I think it's a great deal for $90. And the last thing that is available there are 8 other ships that you can buy for 4 ships of the line, 4 frigates, both French and British. They range in price from $19 to $22. Right. So they're a little more expensive than the X-Wing ships, but they're actually much bigger.
Yeah, although the paint jobs are not quite at the X-Wing level.
Yeah, they are not even close to the X-Wing level. And I looked at them, and my first thought was, I need to ink this and do a little more touch-ups. And then I was like, no, I don't have any time. I'm just going to play with them the way they are. So the rule book, I have other than the fact that there's no index, my problem with the rule book is that it's organized in 3 separate waves, which is a great way to learn the game, but not a great way to be able to find rules when you need them.
Right.
It's organized with the basic game, which is the bare bones minimum that you need to play. And then there's a chapter, the standard game, which adds stuff. And then there's the advanced game, which adds more stuff. And then there's the optional rules. So once you're playing the whole game, you have to remember where that one rule that you're looking for is. So that's very, very, very frustrating.
It's frustrating because if you're trying to learn, if you need to reference a rule about movement, the movement you're trying to reference could be in the advanced game section, the standard game section, or the basic game section, or the optional rules section, unless you remember which element of that's the problem with that kind of breakdown.
Exactly, and
that's pretty annoying.
Yeah,
and the lack of an index is where that really hurts.
Yep.
There is a very cool player aid though from Board Game Geek that I would highly recommend you print out. That made the game we played last night much easier. Cool. The rule book is very nice with color illustrations, very cleanly written rules. Other than those weaknesses we just said, I really liked it. Russ, have you had a lot of interaction with the rulebook? Because I know most of the games you've been playing, you were kind of like the learner.
Yeah, I didn't have to learn from the book, which was nice. But I looked through it, and I liked how it's presented. It looks nice, and the way they did the artwork's great.
Yeah,
too.
there's a lot of graphic examples and things like that. Now we are going to review the advanced game because both Russ and I agree that that's the only way you really can play this game.
Yeah.
It's almost a waste of time. It's a totally different game than all those other Wings of Glory, X-Wing, everything else when you put everything together. But it's kind of basic when you don't, no pun intended, when you don't add it all together. So we really think that's the only way to play the game. So that's what we've got. First, you have to set up your game. You're going to set up your mat if you're lucky enough to have one, or some other surface you're going to play on. I highly recommend you to do it at least on like blue felt or something, so you've got like an ocean-looking surface, and it kind of needs a clearly defined edges.
Also, on your first game, do not put any terrain on the table. Just go with
No, don't do that.
You will screw up your movement.
Yes, and on multiple occasions.
You will crash into things, so best not to add more
And this game is very realistic in its rules for terrain, i.e. you run into a reef, you're done for the rest of the game.
You sink, so don't try to do that.
You sink, or actually you don't sink.
You run aground, right?
You run aground and you don't move for the rest of the game. So setting up, you're going to set up your place. Then you're going to take your base cards, which are the little sheets that fit inside the base is kind of high. It's like you'd say a centimeter maybe. The bases are like 1 centimeter high all the way around.
Yep, something like that.
In a blue that perfectly matches the ship ship mat. And then you're going to put the little card inside that. Then there's a clear plastic that goes over that, and then your ship clamps down. So you can literally switch out every ship that has its own unique stats, has its own little ship card that goes in. And it's very cool because it shows you the different sailing qualities of all these different ships. So you have 4 frigates if you got in at the basic level of the Kickstarter. I have 4 frigates. And every one of those frigates has slightly different sailing qualities because of the way that ship card is laid out, which is awesome. It's this color bars. We'll talk a little bit about it in a little bit. But so you're going to set all that up. Your ship logs, which are those things that fold out, and your ship mats where you track everything. And then you're going to separate out your tokens, your ammunition tokens in one little pile and your order tokens in a little pile. So there's a little housekeeping that you have to do right up front. Then you're going to, if you don't have the bags, which again, we highly recommend you do some sort of organizing or you're going to be in trouble. So you have to separate out all your chits, your damage chits, so all the A's together, all the B's together, stuff like that. Wind direction and strength is set up as per the mission, and the general default is straight down the long table edge with medium strength wind. Each ship chooses its initial sail setting, and you've got 4. You've got full sails, which is going to make you go faster. Battle sails, which is kind of like your medium. Your backing sails, which has got your minimum to still have some forward movement. Mm-hmm. And striking your sails, which means you're not going to be moving at all.
Right. So basically slow, medium, and fast, and then you've got stop.
Exactly.
And what I like about this, too, is there's just a little row on your player mat, and you just put a token, and you slide it back and forth to show what your current sail plan is.
Yeah. It's really, it's going to sound confusing, and I'm going to keep saying this. It's not once you get it all set up.
Right.
Okay, so your ship mat, actually, just like Russ says, it's got a little, I love the graphic design of the game. It all looks like period. It all looks like period sketches and stuff like that. And it's just got a picture of your sails, and one has 3 sails on it, one has 2 sails on it, one has 1 sail on it. And that's just how you keep track of your sail setup. You're going to choose your initial broadside loads, and you have 4 to choose from. Regular cannonballs. You have chain shot, which is very short range, but really good against sails and masts. Mm-hmm. You've got grape shot, which is really short range, but really good against the crew and sails. And then you've got double shot, which is really short, not as short range, but still short range, but does really lots of damage to the ship itself. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to choose your first maneuver card and place it in a little slot. Your ship mat has a little cutout for your ship card, which is just your historical stats on it. Then it has 2 little cutouts for your 2 maneuver cards. So you're going to constantly be planning your maneuvers 1 turn ahead of where you need them to So you need to think ahead.
And that's tricky because what I run into all the time is you're looking at your ship's situation on the board, and you have these cards, and the cards are going to show, your ship's going to veer to the left or veer to the right or start a report, and it's going to go ahead this far. And on these cards are little lines that show, based on your current sail plan, you move short, medium, or long on this card, which is all great. The tricky bit is that you got to remember that you're putting down the card for the turn after next. So you look at where you are and you're like, oh my God, I'm really got to turn hard to starboard. But the turn before you thought you should be going straight. So you put your hard to starboard in there, but oh no, you flip over the straight ahead and you go straight first. So it takes a while it does a great job of emulating how slow ships were though. And that you really have to be one turn ahead, which when you remember when we had our naval experts on the show, they did mention that, you have to remember that when you turn the wheel, it takes a few seconds for the ship to actually respond. It's not like a car.
It's an awesome recreation of that element of naval combat. And it's very unforgiving, and it's very realistic in that I had 2 cards that didn't do exactly what I wanted to do in a game last week. Dave Farr from the Nerd Herders podcast was on my team, and I ended up out of position. And it took me the entire game to try to swing back around in position. And by the time I got to him, he had been double teamed and sunk.
So how many ships do you have at a time?
I think you're going to have a very hard time running more than one at a time as a person. Yep. But you could do 2 at a time and still not be super overwhelmed. I don't think – that's why I was backing this at one level that came with 16 ships. And I realized that if I dropped it down, I would get 8 ships. Knowing this type of game, I knew I didn't ever really need more than that. Because you're not going to – this is not a fleet game. You're not going to be using this and have like 20 or 30 ships on the board.
So are you on teams?
Usually, yeah. The way I've played, I've always played if I'm either one ship against one ship, or if it's 2 ships against 2 ships, I'm on teams.
Yeah, when I played against Randy, we each controlled 2 frigates.
Yeah.
So it was,
and that's not too tough,
and that wasn't too bad. That was actually pretty cool. I enjoyed that because one of your ships invariably gets all messed up, and you have another one you can play with, which was a lot of fun. I would, but, and we were playing the full advanced rules, but it does get a little fiddly there, and I found myself wishing that I had someone else running the ship, one of the ships for me. So you can do it; it's fun if you're not trying to rush. But it's definitely, it really shines. I think at each person controlling their own ship and maybe having 2 or 3 players aside all working together.
Yeah. And that's like a lot of. I think it's a lot of fun. So in your setup, you're setting up your first maneuver of the game, and that's it. So now you're going to start the game. The game has 5 phases, and again, this is in the rule book. It's very hard to figure out because it doesn't like build and show you the beginning game plus the advanced game. It shows you the beginning game and then the base, then the standard game, and then the advanced game. So remember, this is everything all put together. So at the beginning of every turn, you have phase 1, which is the planning phase. The first thing that you do is you check for wind change, both direction and intensity, which is very cool. It's a very cool mechanic. The wind does not change often, but it can change. And the way it is there's a group of chits, and I actually went out and bought velour bags for these because I love the bag mechanic so much. So the direction and the intensity each have their own chits, and you pull out, and it shows either a dot, which means no change, or a plus or a minus for intensity, or an arrow clockwise or counterclockwise for direction. The thing is, if you get a change token, nothing changes. It goes down on the big compass and waits till next turn. And if next turn you pull the exact same chit, then it changes. If you pull a neutral chit, the initial chit stays there and the neutral goes back in the bag. If you pull out an opposite change, it wipes the board clean. So it's not likely that any of this stuff is going to change, but it can happen. So it's kind of like a little cool element. Like last night we played a very long game and the wind never changed, but it constantly, like, you get nervous because if you're going with full sails and all of a sudden the wind intensity picks up to high, you can take damage every turn because you're carrying too much sail. And so when you see that there's like 1+, it's almost like you're watching the barometer and you're like, oh my God, the water's rising. We don't know what's going to happen. And so it's a kind of a cool nervous reaction thing.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's a very cool mechanic considering it only takes like 30 seconds to do at the beginning of each turn. Right. Then you do ongoing damage. Your ships can spring leaks. Water floods in. Fires can damage your ship, so things like that happen next.
Fire bad.
Fire is really bad.
Yep.
And then you're going to plan your maneuver. That's when you place your second card in the 2 slot.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we're going to talk very quickly about the veer rating. Every ship has a veer rating, which is a number value that's assigned to the ship, and that's basically how maneuverable the ship is.
It's a big number inside a ship's wheel on your an icon.
Exactly. Each maneuver card has a veer value, and the veer value of a maneuver card can't be higher or lower by the veer rating than the last card you played, which sounds confusing, but basically your veer value is like a 7. If your veer rating is like a 7. If the value of one card is a 2, you can't play a 10 for your next card.
Right, because 7
if you look at it, that's what the only thing it's really stopping you from doing is slaloming drastically.
And what's really neat about it is that you'll notice is when you switch ships, the frigates all have very high veer values. So the smaller ships can obviously maneuver very heavily. The ships of the line do not. They're like 5 or 4. So those guys, you really have to sort of, you can't go from, as Craig mentioned, turning hard to starboard to turning hard to port. You have to go from hard to starboard to maybe straight to then a little bit to port. And so it keeps you from just flipping back and forth. So the frigates can really dance circles around the men of war.
Right. The key, and I'm going to say this a lot, I think, the key in this game, there is so much realism and so much detail in this game, but it's all hidden in these basic mechanics. So you don't know why, you're never going to think, oh, I can't zigzag or whatever. But what really is happening is you're being forced to use these ships in exactly the way they would have been used. And they're going to be slow and ponderous in their turns and things like that. So it's really forcing on this historical realism on the game without getting into too much technical detail. So you're gonna do that, and if you have broken masts from damage, then there's a totally different, very limited deck of cards that you have to use instead of your normal cards.
Lots of cards and chits in this game.
Yeah, lots of cards and chits, lots of them. And the last thing you do in your planning phase is you plan your crew actions. Your ship log will show you very quickly at a glance how many orders you can give. Usually you start with 4, and the more damage you take, the more guys that you lose, the fewer orders you can give because your crew is dying. So it goes down with damage. The different things you can do is increase or decrease your sails, so bring them up or down 1. You can pump water. It doesn't stop the leak, but it removes 1 water damage token from your damage track, so that if you only have 1 leak and you're constantly running a pump, then you can keep ahead of 1 leak. But if you got 2 leaks, all of a sudden you're going to have some serious trouble if you're not repairing the leaks. You can fire your port or your starboard broadsides, or both if you want to spend 2 orders, but it's only 1 per order. Musketry fire, which is very short range. It's the width of the range ruler, but you have to have an order out there in order to have some of your guys ready to shoot their guns. Extinguish fire, which takes 2 turns to do, and it's damaging your ship the whole time. So that's one of the reasons that fire is bad. And then there's a repair, 1 repair order. All of your repairs take 2 turns to do. You can either clear 1 damage box, which we'll talk about when we talk about combat. Once per game, you can do that. You can repair a leak. You can repair a damaged rudder, or you can repair a broken mast, but you can only do that once a game also.
So I love this mechanic. So basically, there's this little track on your player mat that shows the number of icons you have for crew orders. And you have all these little chits that have the different icons on them for the different kind of orders Craig just described. So increase or decrease your sails. And they've got little icons with an arrow on them so you can tell it's, man the starboard guns, man the port guns, reload the starboard guns, reload the port guns. Yeah. So what's kind of cool about this is because you have a limited number of these slots you can use each turn, if you want to man both broadsides, have muskets in the rigging, have sails going up, and repairing damage, well, you can't do all that.
Right.
So now you got to decide, am I going to man the port guns only or the starboard guns only? Or do I need to reload this turn? And if you only man one side, and all of a sudden your opponent does something you don't expect, and he's on the wrong side of your ship, you've manned the wrong guns, you got to change the orders up, and you've lost maybe the opportunity to get a really perfect shot on him. It's just really, and in the beginning of the game, you have more than you can do. You have more, you can do more than you need to, so you're fine. But as the game progresses and you lose crew and you lose order slots, or so many things are happening at once, that you have to kind of try to really think through what's going to happen. You really start feeling like a ship's captain. You have to decide, Are we going to take the guns out of the sails and have them man the reloads? What are we going to do? We're going to change our shot type. All kinds of decisions to make.
I love it. Again, it's like this really realistic mechanic, but it's very simply handled. And just like Russ said, at the beginning of the game, you have more orders than you know what to do with. You're starting the game with your broadsides already loaded. You've got your sail plan, what you want it to have. And then all of a sudden, there'll just be this tipping point in the game where you're like, oh my God, I need more orders and I don't have them. And you've got the pump is running nonstop to try to keep ahead of the leak. And you've got guys trying to put out fires and you're trying to reload your cannons and you're trying to shoot. It's just craziness.
Meanwhile, you gotta
Can
slow
you
down.
put out fires with leaks?
No, you can't.
No, you can't.
Funny that you should mention
Apparently
that.
the fires
I'm
are like
assuming that the fires are not at the same place where the leaks are.
Or maybe they're like oil fires, so they
That
just
could
make
be.
the leaks worse.
That could
Be. There you go. What were you saying, Russ?
No, I was just saying that's a good point. The fires are not the same place as the leaks. Is what I was saying.
Correct. Yes. Okay. All right. So that's phase 1.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 2 is your crew actions, and basically everybody reveals all their actions at once. The way this game works, like all of the similar games, that these guys have created is everything is simultaneous. So it's not gonna be like, oh, I got first turn, so I'm gonna win. There's never anything like that. Everything is simultaneous. So you reveal all of your the crew action orders that you gave. Then you do boarding or grappling, and you can only use a board and grapple order if you're already touching in base to base at the beginning of the turn. So you can't plan ahead, go for ramming them, and have your guys in the rigging ready to jump across.
Right.
And the boarding and grappling is awesome because it's kind of like a rock, paper, scissors, but only 2 things. So it's like even odds kind of thing. You adjust sails automatically. That happens immediately, either 1 up or 1 down, depending on the token that you chose. Sorry, Sydney, what was that?
No, I was just confused how you played rock, paper, scissors with 2 things.
only 2
it's like
things.
one beats one and the other beats the first one.
Well, the thing is, you've got 2 tokens. One is, yes, I want to fight, and one is, no, I don't want to fight. And you both put it down, face down, and then you both reveal them. And if you both want to fight, then you fight. If you both don't want to fight, you don't fight. And if one wants to fight and one doesn't want to fight, then you randomize it again, and it's random whether or not you're fighting. So it's very interesting and kind of cool. So that's boarding. Adjusting. You pump water. That happens now. So with 1 leak, you can keep ahead of it because you take damage and then you almost immediately pump the water out again. And then repair actions, like I said, take 2 turns. So your repair actions, you flip that token over, and then you put it with whatever it is you're going to be repairing next turn.
So this is the one part of the game I felt was a little fiddly, and that's just when you reveal the actions, right? So
yeah,
my understanding of how the rules work, and maybe I misunderstood this, is that when you lock your crew orders in, and again, there's those little, you got those 4 circles or however many circles are on the board, and you put your little circular tokens face down, and then you flip them over to show your orders. That's all cool in the first turn. But after by the 4th or 5th turn, you're like, okay, so I'm going to keep my guns manned, and I just felt like it was fiddly to flip them back over again. So about halfway through the game, I was just like, you know what? I'm not even going to hide the fact from what I'm doing on my ship from you. I'm just going to put the things in and lock on what I'm going to be doing. I didn't worry about hiding it. I don't know.
Which is, I think that's a depth to the game that you can totally either take or give or take.
Right.
I don't know how much it adds. I mean, no. Not for nothing, Russ, but your brother was super excited about putting down 4 orders face down every turn.
Okay, fair enough.
And you're like, John, I know you're not doing 4 things. Yeah, but you don't know what I'm doing. I was like, okay.
Well, one thing I will say is I was running 2 frigates at a time, so running 2 ships, I just probably feel like flipping over 8 orders. So maybe when you're running 1 ship, it's a little more.
Yeah, I've never felt like, oh, this is onerous. I don't like it. But there are times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to have those cannons flipped. The cool thing is when you start to get in close and they have too many things that they need to do, they can't do everything, and you're like, oh my God, please don't load your cannons, please don't load your cannons. And then when they flip, there's that very cool reveal moment that's a really neat thing. So that's phase 2, the crew action. Now phase 3 is the movement, and how do you move? It's very simple. You've got these cards that we've already described a little bit. You place the maneuver card up against the front of your ship base, and you follow the appropriate line. Like Russ said, there's 3 lines of movement on each card. Those lines of movement are associated with your sail setting. So full is usually a longer line. Battle sails is usually the middle line. And backing sails is usually the shortest line. Then you pick up your ship, and you place the back of your ship. So you're always moving the width, the length of your ship plus whatever little bit the card included. So you place the back of your ship up against the appropriate line for the wind attitude, which I'll explain in a minute, but it's basically green or orange, depending on if you're really going with the wind or if you're kind of beating with the wind. And so there's two different lengths. So you place it, it shows you, it's very clear, it's very easy to figure out where your ship goes, and it's going to follow the correct line with your sail plan, and it's going to go the distance based on the wind attitude towards that particular ship.
So basically the card's got three, if you think about how X-Wing, the templates in X-Wing work,
Yeah.
the card's got three little template drawings right on it, and you're just going to choose which one to use depending on how what your current sail plan is and your relationship between you and the wind.
Exactly.
So do you always have all your options of maneuvering?
So that's a good question. Not always, right? So what happens is when you're choosing your maneuver, you have the entire deck available to you under the restrictions, though, of, remember that
the veer rating.
The veer rating, so you can't exceed your veer rating when you put the next card down. But the other thing is, when you get ready to move, you got to check how the angle of the wind is compared to your ship. And if you're basically going into the wind, like the wind is too far against your bow, you actually cannot use the card you planned. You must replace it with a card that basically means you're right into the wind. And basically the number of your card indicates which of those wind cards you have to use, and it's basically going to push you in a direction you probably didn't want to do. Maybe sometimes you can use it to your advantage, but so you do get stuck in the wind sometimes. But if you're other than the restriction of the veer rating, you can play whatever card you want as long as the wind's with you.
And
so
you
it's
don't
not
have
like
damage.
drawing a hand of cards.
No, it's
no. That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question
because that comes up every time we play. When you give the people the maneuver deck, it's not going to be like a random, or you only have certain cards. You have your whole deck to choose from.
Right. Under the restrictions. You said.
So that's an excellent question.
There's also restrictions, too, though, because within your deck, there are different bordered colored cards.
Yes.
The red bordered colored cards are the ones you get stuck with if you're into the wind. There's also blue bordered colored cards that you must play from if your sails are damaged.
Your masts.
Or your masts are damaged. Yeah. So as you take damage, you do get restricted on what you can pull from your deck.
Yeah, and the mast damage cards, there's very few of them, and they're all very erratic.
Yes.
So your maneuver goes downhill sharply as you lose masts, as it should.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yep. So now we've talked about checking attitude, and we've talked about how cool it is. How do you do it? It's very simple. The wind indicator, the attitude indicator it looks kind of like the point of a compass that would spin, and it's 3-dimensional, so it sticks up. You're going to place that so that the vane of it, the little blade of it, is parallel with the wind direction, which is again where the actual Sails of Glory battle mat is useful because it has those map lines on it that makes it easier to check. And you place it right next to your ship so that the vane is pointed directly at your main mast. And that's very clear on the model, which is the main mast. The vane, as it's pointing that way, will cross the base of your ship at a very specific point. Now, the ship card, the ship card that's on the base card, has a border all the way around it that is green, red, and orange. And that's going to tell you, without you ever having to know anything about sailing ships, what's really good, what's okay, and what's really not good for this ship. So obviously, the wind blowing straight at your bow is really bad for anybody. Interestingly enough, the wind blowing straight up the back of your ship is also not great, because what it would actually do is catch on your aftmost sails and not fill your center sails or your forward sails. So it's best for a sailing ship to get the wind going a little bit to either side.
You want to reach.
You want a reaching wind.
So, but you have to know any of that. All you got to look at is you have this little
color.
vane. Yeah, you stick it, point at your main mast. You make sure it's parallel to the direction of the wind. You look down at your model, and if your little vane is crossing over a green line on the edge of your ship, you have got the best possible wind situation. If it is crossing over an orange section, you've got the medium wind situation. And if it's coming across the red section of your base, well, that's bad news. Your wind's in your face, and now you've got to switch your card and go to a red card.
You've been taken aback, and things are bad.
Right.
And this is what we're talking about, where it's taking into account so many amazingly cool things In this one, you place this indicator, you look at it, boom, you're done.
Yep.
You know what you're doing. Okay, so you've got to check your thing. Now, if you're taken aback in the red, like Russ said, you discard the card that you planned. That has to go away completely. Each deck of cards has 3 taken aback cards, the ones that Russ described that have the red border. You have to choose one of those to use.
And the one you choose is restricted based on your view.
Exactly. They're restricted based on how many turns you've been into the wind. Each one of those cards has 2 sides. One of them has 1 hourglass on it. One of them has 2 hourglasses on it. In the first turn that you're taken aback, you use the 1 hourglass, which is usually the boat pointing straight ahead but not going very far. In the second turn that you're taken aback, you have to use the 2 hourglass one, which is almost always your boat getting pushed like in a U-turn in some random direction, which is awesome and actually very useful. Usually it ends up helping you because remember, you do have some control over it. You're choosing one of the 3 options.
What's actually cool about it, if you know anything about sailing and you watch what actually happens to your ship, if you just play by these very simple rules, you'll actually see your ship come about. Basically, you come about. You turn into the wind and you come about. And it's actually, you can use it very effectively once you understand it and you kind of get which way you would come about depending on the angle the wind is on your ship. And you can actually use it to bring your guns to bear, to kind of slow down and do all kinds of neat little tricks.
Yeah. And like most things in this game, maneuver-wise, it takes longer than you think it should.
Right.
Because you're like, oh my God, it's going to take forever as your like ship comes about and the bow swings around. So that's awesome. That's taken aback. If you're striking your sails this turn with one of your orders, then you use the order card you've already put down as if you're at the lowest sail rating, and then you get rid of all your cards, so now you're not moving until you choose to put a movement card down later on. So you basically struck all your sails. Otherwise, all movement is simultaneous unless there's going to be a collision, and you do it just like we described, where you use your card and you use the vane and you figure out where you're going to move. If you're going to end overlapping somebody else, then you have to go back to your original starting position and you move in the order of the highest burden, meaning the biggest ship. Then if they're tied, the best wind attitude, reaching, running, beating, or taking it back. And then if they're still tied, then it's just random. And that will show who's ramming into who. Interestingly enough, you only take damage in this game if you run into a friendly ship. Because I guess it's assumed that your men are prepared with gaff hooks and everything to fend off an enemy ship or to grapple and get ready to board.
Yeah. Well, also, I think they're trying to replicate the fact that if friendly ships hit, someone's screwed up and you should be penalized. Right. But if you're hitting an enemy ship, it was not a common tactic in Age of Sail to
Right, you weren't like, ram them!
Right, this isn't Rome where they actually had oars and were designed to ram.
Right.
Or even Assassin's Creed Black Flag has ramming it too, which is wrong, but just kind of fun.
But fun.
But yeah, it wasn't really a common tactic, so I think they're trying to replicate the fact that you don't want to dismast yourself all the time ramming enemy ships.
Right,
so,
yes.
What if you cross over someone while you're sailing?
As long as you don't end overlapping, it doesn't matter.
So if you move past them, you're fine. It's only if you end on them. So it's just assumed that you're moving at such rates that you kind of avoid each other somehow. Little abstraction there.
Yeah, it's a little abstraction.
Yep.
And there aren't many of those in this game, so that's cool. If 2 friendly ships do collide, though, they take a number of B tokens, and that's the most damaging damage type of token in the whole game, equal to the burden of the ship that hit them. So a frigate is a 2 or a 3, so you're only going to take 2 or 3 tokens if you get hit by a frigate. A man of war is 4 or 5, so you're really going to take a solid hit if one of those run into you. And remember, it's only friendly models, so it's not like a good idea to do that.
We're getting to damage when we get into combat, but that's basically like getting hit with cannons. So just, FYI.
Exactly. That's bad. Like a broadside.
Right. And
that's movement. Does anybody have any questions about how that goes? Sydney, does that sound like it makes sense?
Yeah, sounds pretty legit.
Right,
and it sounds a little complex. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts, but it really takes care of itself once you get an angle on the attitude indicator and the way the cards work.
And it feels like it's a very process kind of thing, so you could step through step by step.
Exactly. This is one of those games. There's a lot going on. It sounds very confusing. Once you play one turn of the game, you're like, oh, okay, I got it now. Okay, cool.
And the thing is, you can start the simpler game that has none of the crew orders and things like that. It's just those games are it's almost too simple.
Yeah, really that sounds boring.
Yeah, unless you're just not a gamer at all and you're new to the whole idea of moving models around the table, I think it's worth just going all the way. Go all in.
Yep.
Just go for it.
Okay. So now we're into the cool phase.
Yes.
Phase 4, combat.
Yeah.
The
Blam,
first thing
blam.
exactly.
Yep.
Fire! Okay. The first thing you're going to do is fire broadsides. Now, remember, you have to give the proper order during the order phase, or your guys are busy elsewhere and nobody's manning your guns.
Now, here's the thing to remember. If you give the order to, it's basically not, the order's not fire guns. The order's actually man a particular
Right,
side.
exactly.
So if you give that order, you don't have to shoot this turn. It just means you're ready to shoot should the opportunity, it's fire as she bears, boys. If she doesn't bear, you don't shoot. So you're not wasting a shot until you decide you're going to shoot.
Exactly.
Yep.
So the first thing you have to do is determine your firing arc. And every one of these ships has 3 firing arcs on either side. The broadside is a very narrow slice right in the middle of your ship because these guns have some ability to traverse, but not a lot. So there's a narrow arc. There's a narrow slice that's your broadside. And then there is a 4-quarter sort of pointing forward into the side and an aft quarter pointing backwards into the side. And that in either of those, you're going to have fewer, you're going to do fewer tokens of damage.
So this is brilliant how they did this, really. I think it's really, really simple. So you've got these little, almost like little line of sight indicators, right, on the ship. And there's a little slice off the bow, there's a little slice off the stern, and there's a little slice in the middle of the ship. And what's cool about it is so it's really cool is it's easy to check with this little this measuring device here if I'm going to be able to cross your base from the little slice in the middle.
Yep.
If I can do that, I can fire at you from the center of my ship, which means I can bring the most guns to bear, which means you get hit with my entire broadside.
Yep.
If I can get you only from the front slice, then I can still get you, but now you're only getting a smaller percentage of my guns, so it's less dice. And the different ships in the game have little icons on your player mat to tell you how many pulls your opponent's going to have to take out of the bag. It's kind of like thinking of rolling dice, but it's really pulls out of the bag. He's going to have to make given that side. So on some ships, most ships, you have a lot of pulls, which is bad for your target when you're in the center slice, but only a few pulls from the front slice, and some ships there's less pulls in the back. It depends on the ship. It depends how much damage you've taken, and as you get damage, these things reduce as well. So it's really, really clever. You don't have to understand any of that. You just got to look and say, oh, it's in the middle slice or not. But it captures that feeling of, he's right in the center of my broadside. I can hit him with everything I got.
Exactly. It's tracking all of these real historical things, but it's doing it in such a creative and simple graphic way that you don't have to worry about, like, all you're doing is you're looking at how much damage you've taken, which means that now you're shooting this much. So my enemy, if I'm shooting at Russ, it says broadside is 4. Russ has to pull 4 tokens out of the correct bag. And if you're firing regular cannon fire, the long range is the A bag and short range is the B bag, and that's all there is to it.
Is there a lot of having to eyeball how far you're going to end up from someone and if they're going to be in range or not?
Yes.
Not really. It's not hard to do.
Well,
It's not like
once you get close, you're going to be in range for a lot of time.
Sydney, are you asking is it model eye view where you get down with your eyeballs and try to look kind of thing?
Well, I mean, when I watch my dad and brother play war games with the models, they know they can move 7 inches, and they're like, I want to get there, but they have to decide before they measure it, so they have to know what 7 inches looks like.
Yeah, there's
not really, because you're moving with the cards, right?
Yeah, there's less of that in this game because
so you're just worried about the range ruler.
And the measuring stick is pretty well known. You can kind of see it lying on the table, so you kind of know. Now, Craig, one thing I didn't catch is: are you allowed to pre-measure? To Sydney's point with the range ruler?
I keep looking it up, and what it says is if the ship is in range, you may fire. Is what it says.
It's may. So you can always check. So that's another thing, Sydney. You can because it's very because of the speed and the simulation of how slow things are. To reload your cannons is very expensive. So
it takes a while.
It would be a big deal if you were to say, I'm going to shoot my cannons, then put the measuring stick out and realize you're out of range and you've wasted that shot.
Yeah.
So I think we've been playing that so far because of Craig's reading of the May rule. I can check with a measuring stick. If you're out of range, I can decide, no, I'm not going to shoot. Or even if you're in range, but it's in the long range category, and I know he's going to pull from the A bag, which I know does less damage on average than the B bag, I might want to wait until he's even closer next turn and be able to fire, because reloading takes 2 full turns.
Right.
So you definitely, if you think next turn he's going to be in a better position to shoot him, or maybe he's in the center of your shot. You know, if he's off the bow, you're going to get less pulls than if he's in the center of your ship. So maybe you want to wait a second so he's right for the best possible shot.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a tough decision to make. What I like about this game is you're not making the decision based on, did I move 7 inches or did I not move 7 inches, or is he within range of my measuring stick? You're really making the decision based on, what do I think he as a captain is going to do next turn? Is he planning to turn left? And what's even better is he already locked in that next movement card a turn ago. He's the card he plays now is going to be a turn later. So it really has to be, did Craig think he was going to end up here right coming into my broadside now? Because if he didn't, I'm going to wait a couple more seconds and see if he moves even closer and he's going to give me a better shot. I got to decide.
And the answer to that question is almost always no. No, Craig did not realize he was going to be there. Because one thing Craig has learned playing this game is that he sucks at maneuvering a giant sailing ship.
Yep. So what's cool about it is the shooting system is really, really simple. So you look at your ship and you see, he's in that arc, which means and according to my player, Matt, he's going to have to make that many pulls out of the bag. Which bag he pulls out is going to be dictated to by where he is in the range ruler, either the A or B section, or the ammunition types. You can also have different ammos in your cannons. So when you shoot, you just flip over your load token to show that, I'm firing regular shot or chain shot, whatever. And then, Craig, you're in my center broadside. You're going to have to pull 3 pulls from the B bag.
Yeah.
So Craig pulls up the B bag, takes 3 pulls, and then what?
I just want to say really quickly that it's all color coded too, again, so for graphic design. So the A is yellow. So if it's in the yellow range on the ruler, you're going to be pulling yellow tokens out of the bag with the yellow logo on it. So it's all color coded. So what happens if when you pull out you pull out your numbers and they're all open, everybody sees them. It's not like Wings of Glory where you don't know the damage you're doing. They have numbers on them, and they have some of them have pictures on them. The pictures are either of a little man, so that immediately there's 2 damage tracks on your ship's log. One's to track your crew, and one's to track your ship's health. A damage token that's a little man and only a little man immediately goes on to that crew health track and kills one of those guys. And you've only got a finite number of those before your crew is dead and your ship has to surrender. The numbers are anything from a 0, which is awesome, to like a 5 or even a 6. It would be really, really bad. And what's going to happen is each ship has what's called its burden, which is how big the ship is. And the ship like I said when we were talking about ramming, a frigate is a 2 or a 3, and a man of war is generally a 4 or a 5. That's how many points of damage each square on the damage track can take before it's closed out and you go to the next square. Right. So what's going to happen is you're going to put out all of your all the damage tokens that you just took, and you're going to take them in order, taking the highest first and placing it in the first open slot that's available. The only special rule is if you've got any tokens that would completely fill up one of your slots, let's say if your burden is a 4 and you pull a 5 or a 6, that goes to the first completely empty spot, skipping over a spot that's got some damage but not that isn't full yet. And so you basically just fill up those slots as you go, and that's it. And every slot that you put any damage on, whether it fills it up or not, that slot's now out of action, and you're going to look at the next slot to the right as far as your active slot, and that's going to tell you how many orders you can give. That's going to tell you the strength of your broadsides. That's going to tell you the strength of your musketry if you're talking about the crew and things like that.
So battle degradation is built right into the game. As you take damage, your ships become less and less effective. And what's also cool is there's 2 different damage types. So you can actually start losing crew but not have hull damage, or lose lots of hull damage and not lose crew. But either of these things starts affecting your ship in an adverse way.
Exactly. And the different damage bags, the different damage types are biased towards the kind of damage that particular kind of ammunition would give. Right. So chain shot is hurting. There's more masts and sail damage and crew damage in that. Grape shot. Right. Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. Grape shot has more guy damage in it and fewer hull damage, things like that. Again, it's all built into the game, so you don't have to worry about tracking all that stuff. You're just pulling chits out of a bag, and no matter what kind of ammunition it is, once the chit's out of the bag, they're all treated the same way.
Right.
Do you have a limited number of the different types of ammunition?
An excellent question. No, you do not.
No.
So so you can, every time you reload, well, when you shoot, like Russ said, you immediately flip over the little token that indicates the ammunition type is face down on your mat until you fire it. Then you flip it face up to show what you fired. It stays there for the rest of the turn because you can't fire and reload a broadside in the same turn, and it goes away at the end of the turn. It basically clears at the end of the turn. Then when you do a reload action next turn at the end of the turn, because reload happens at the end of the turn, so you're only going to be firing every other turn an effective broadside.
Each side of your ship, so you can man the other side.
Exactly.
Right. And you get that glorious double broadside once in a while, which just feels really good.
Yes, which is awesome. And what I love is everybody, like the big naval guys, are always complaining when you talk about like Uncharted Seas and stuff. Like, no way could a ship fire both broadsides. Well, that's built into this game. If you want to fire both broadsides, there's other things your ship's not going to be able to do.
Right.
So that's a very cool element to it. And so, so when you reload, which we'll talk a little bit about later, when you reload, you get to choose what kind of ammunition, and you just cycle through whatever you want to do because you've got all the options each time. Very quickly, raking is built into the rules. Mm-hmm. When you find your firing arc, if the ruler goes from your firing point on your base and goes straight at the enemy's main mast and crosses either of the short sides, the front or the back of his base, it's raking. Mm-hmm. If it's going through the front, you get 1 extra damage token for every 3 tokens that would be dealt. If it's going from the rear, you get 1 extra token for every 2 that would be dealt. Right. So you're doing more tokens of damage to indicate the raking.
And raking, for those who aren't familiar with the term, it just means shooting down the length of a ship. It's also called crossing the T, right? Your full broadside is going against his bow or stern.
Exactly.
And the reason it's more powerful is your cannonball is actually passing through the length of the ship. It's more likely to hit something interesting, as well as, and from the stern, it's even worse because generally the stern of most ships were not as strong, not well armored, big glass windows there, or the captain's cabin is all kinds of craziness. You can just go cause all kinds of trouble.
Exactly.
So that's a really great mechanic, and it's almost essential because it was a major tactic. Raking was, because not only do you do more damage, but also the enemy's guns generally aren't there. Now, one complaint I've seen from some players is that there is no ability for forward firing from the direct bow or stern of the ship, so there's no chasers, as they call them. But chasers would be nice, I guess, as a nod to them, but were not a major offensive tactic, right? The chasers were kind of like in a long pursuit. You're hoping for a very, very lucky shot.
It was almost always a Hail Mary kind of thing.
It's not a fighting method, so it's not really a big loss.
And you can't fit more than a couple cannons to the fore, a few more to the aft, but like you couldn't fit enough to really be effective in the battle.
Didn't they sometimes just drag them from where the cannons normally are?
They did.
Yeah, especially in books.
They would drag them right now in Matron and Aubrey. They would drag them to the bow or stern.
Wherever they need them.
They didn't usually have guns permanently placed there.
But they weigh several tons, so it wasn't like an easy thing.
It was a big effort.
Yeah. So the next thing you do in combat is musketry. Again, remember, it's tiny. It's like a 1 centimeter range. And if you gave the correct order and they're in range, you draw from the E-bag, which again is mostly crew damage, and you draw a number of chits equal to the musketry firepower, which is something that's tracked by your crew damage track. And then finally, you resolve boarding, which is if you're grappled, each ship alternates taking E-chits up to the burden of the attacking ship. So the bigger your ship, the more effective it's going to be at boarding. So like a man of war is going to force you to draw 4 or 5 chits. A frigate's going to force you to draw 2 or 3.
Craig, I haven't seen any boarding actions. Does the current crew count affect your boarding draws?
It does not.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
I would like to be able to.
It's tied. If for some reason it's not tied to that. And what I would like would be for it to be tied to the musketry firepower number.
Yeah, because I feel like the normal tactic was you'd soften the ship up, kill as much crew as possible with grape shot, and then move in. So even a smaller ship could take a larger ship if you'd gotten enough crew damage. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds
so
like
I think
in this game,
that
it's not so
to
much.
me that's the one kind of misstep in the whole. I mean, I think the game is awesome. I think it's really cool the way it's all laid out. This is the one thing where I think they used the wrong stat.
Yeah.
Because basically, if your ship is big, even if you've been shattered and wrecked and most of your guys are dead, it's still the size of your ship that's indicating how much damage you're dealing out. And so basically, that's all the combat.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah, got it.
Yep.
Makes sense to me.
Awesome. And the last phase is reloading. If you put down a reload order, and your ship fired last turn, so your broadside spot was empty at the beginning of this turn. At the end of the phase is when you choose one of your ammo types and you put it face down on that broadside. Right. And the orders are broadside specific, so you've got to remember to put down the right one. Mm-hmm. The only exception to that is a special optional rule, the double shot. And double shot can be devastating at short range, but it takes 2 turns to load double shot, which makes sense. And also because it takes 2 turns, if anybody's paying attention, they're going to know that you've loaded double shot.
Right.
Unless you started the game with it, which I saw last night, which was devastating. This is also when you clear your fired guns. So you fired your guns this turn. When you did that, you flipped your chit. At the end of the turn, that's when you remove your chit, so that spot's now blank. And you finally resolve any of your repairs as far as the fires are now put out, the leaks are now fixed, the mast is now fixed. That's the last thing that happens. And that's it. That's the whole turn, and then you repeat all over again until the turn limit of the mission or the victory conditions of the mission are met. How's that sound?
Sounded good.
Yeah.
You follow?
Sounds like an incredibly complete game.
It is. So I'm very quickly going to run through some of the optional rules because there's some really cool stuff, but most of them are very simple. There's an optional order you can give called "Let Them Drink," which is the grog action.
I must protest the fact that that's optional.
What's that?
I'm protesting the fact that it's optional. You should always play with the grog rule.
We don't consider any of this optional.
You must have grog.
Exactly. And
seems like in the beginning when you don't have enough things to get your guys to do, you just let them drink all the grog.
You wouldn't want to do that. That would be bad. The effect of the grog action is once per game, you can remove a dead crew damage counter from your ship log.
Yeah.
So you can basically bring one guy back to life, which is cool.
Alcohol does that?
Apparently,
yes, because it gets you to ignore pain.
That's the idea.
I don't know why you would do this optional rule. There's a lacking training rule. Reloading takes 2 turns instead of 1, and there's a chance every turn that one of your orders doesn't happen.
That'd be good for handicapping a veteran player against a newbie.
That's true. Or or a scenario. Right. There's an entangling rule. When your ships are in base to base, you draw a token from one of the bags, and it indicates whether or not you're entangled. So you're grappled even if you don't want to be.
That's cool.
This one I love. This is the continuous fire rule, because when you're desperate, you want to use this. You can fire a cleared broadside that has not been reloaded, and you can't reload it in the turn you fire it, but you only do half the damage rounding down.
That's because you're not aiming. You're just throwing it in there and shooting.
Not only that, but only half your guns are going off, and your crews are like, oh my God!
Yep.
Okay, so that's a cool one. First broadside is cool. Basically, it just uses the raking from the front rule for the first shot of the game from each of your broadsides.
And that's historically accurate because your first shot was always your cleanest because everything's loaded perfectly in your prep before battle.
Exactly. Forced aim is another lame one that I wouldn't use. That's your ship has to fire at the closest ship, and if the closest ship is a friendly ship, you can't fire at all. Mm-hmm. So that's like building in your frustration. There's the double shot, which is that special ammunition I told you about. Takes 2 turns to reload. It's only half the range of regular ball shot, but it does both A and B damage. So you're basically pulling double the number of tokens.
That's awesome.
So that can really, really shatter a boat in one broadside. Mm-hmm. Aiming high, you adjust it basically adjusts the type of damage you're doing. So it's biased towards masts and sails, and it's by substitution and changing the chit bag a little bit. Low and high winds, that's something that I don't think should be optional. Like I said, it almost never changes, but it's really cool when it does. The strength adds or subtracts from your sail setting. So if you have battle sails and all of a sudden it goes to high winds, then you're counting as if you have full sails. If you have full sails and it goes to high winds, then you count as having full sails, and you have to start pulling damage tokens until you drop your canvas so you can stop taking damage. A couple things that don't make a lot of sense to me because I really don't see how they could have come into effect. Ammo explosion. If you have 3 fire markers on your ship, there's a chance that your ship explodes and spreads fire to other ships.
Love it.
Spreading fires. If your ship is on fire and it's in base contact, fire ships.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. If your ship is on fire and it makes contact with another ship, there's a chance of it spreading to the other ship.
That's what I'm talking about.
Special damage, which is, again, I think you have to use this stuff. This is where if damage to your mast, you can only use those gray bordered cards.
Right.
Damage to your sails affects your sail plan. And damage to your rudder affects your veer rating, so it's harder for you to maneuver. Sinking ships is like a burning ship. If you have 2 or more leaks, there's a chance that you might sink. And a surrendered ship rule is awesome because when you reduce either to 0 hull or 0 crew, unless it's burning or sinking, the ship stays on the board. And now it's an immobile obstacle.
Nice.
Which is cool.
Is it pushed by the wind?
It is not, which is odd. But you figure the sails are all tattered, so it's not really moving. And it has optional terrain rules, which we've said are already really, really unforgiving. You run aground and you're done for the rest of the game as far as moving is concerned.
If someone comes close to the island, just fire off of it.
Shoot them,
Right.
exactly. You've got plenty of orders to use.
Right.
You've got coasts and islands, which are the same basically as reefs and shoals. And you have coastal batteries, which are awesome. They're like ships that don't move. They ignore all special damage except crew and fire. Their musketry range is a quarter of the whole range ruler. So they've got snipers and they're not moving. So they're much, much farther range. And they can be deadly and they're very hard to take out. Inside the game, it also includes rules for solitary play. I know a lot of our listeners are always asking about solitary play. So Sails of Glory does include rules for solitary play where there's a little IA built into the enemy ships on how they maneuver and things like that. It includes 6 different missions, which are cool, which indicate the number of players, the table size, the ships involved, and the deployment of the ships, additional rules they add to make things more interesting, victory conditions, and every mission then has variants to add to it. So you've probably got between 15 and 20 different missions total that you can play. And there are a bunch of different missions. So that's it. That is Sails of Glory. Look, I didn't do it.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
See?
Now, Russ.
Yes, Craig.
In the mode of a desperate ensign who has been suddenly elevated to captaining in the ship when the captain and all the lieutenants were killed in one broadside, in a panicked manner, explain to us the D6G patent pending rating system.
Oh my God! The captain's dead! Oh dear God! Oh, okay. Don't panic. This is a panic situation. This is the kind of situation where I would jump overboard on a 2+. So 2+ means I am totally panicked. Now, if I were calm right now and the captain was alive and was telling me exactly what to do, I'd be like, I wasn't going to run right now. I would only run on a 6+. Let's say I saw my friend get shot in the head with a pistol. That would be like a 4+. I'd run away. So right now, if this game were great, it was fantastic. If it was the kind of game that I would be panicked about, I would say it would be a 2+. But if it was the kind of game that I would be not worried about at all and not even consider even playing because I'm calm, cool, and collected, it'd be a 6+. So 2+ is good, 6+ is bad.
Okay, good. So there you go. Low number good, high number bad. A reroll counts as a half, and all you mathematicians can just go and strap yourself to the cannon.
Right.
Okay. So Russ, what do you think of the game?
I really like it a lot. I was cautiously optimistic about it, but I was nervous about the models, and I was a little nervous about the rules. And when I saw the movement was only card sized instead of these giant long templates like you see in X-Wing and stuff, I was kind of like, well, is that going to move fast enough and far enough? And seeing the different measurements on the card, I wasn't sure, but it actually all works really, really well. I really like the system. I like the components. Settlement elements are a little bit fiddly, but it's just a great, really good naval combat game, and I really like how it all brings it together. I was also nervous that the ships wouldn't feel different enough, but they do feel different enough. When I was playing against Randy, he was French and I was English, I believe, and the ships, even though we're both commanding frigates, he had better hull but less guns. I had more guns but less hull. Yeah. So I could take more damage more easily, but I was firing more shots at him. and it worked out pretty cool. Also, there were some really, really, really cinematic moments. We were like stand up cheering at one point where I thought I was dead, and I fired my guns and got 2 fires on him in one volley that took a ship, like burned him to the water line. And he was like, "Oh no!" It was just like great moments. I've heard other people playing, you see the shouting, so it definitely gets the cinematic feel of naval combat without taking too long to play. So it's not too terribly long a game. I love the wind mechanics, really innovative on how you use the little indicator to figure out which part of the ship it's crossing and whether it's hard maneuver or not. I like the way the orders work. I love the mat. It feels like you have your own little camp where you're working on your little ship the whole game. A lot to like about this game. I really, really like it. My only dings against it are there are some elements that are a little bit fiddly, and I think you really to have the full experience, you want to spend that extra bit of money for the bags and everything else, and so you're probably looking at like $120 to $150 when you get all the stuff you really want, that you want to have it totally blinged out. So it's not a cheap game, but on the plus side, unlike X-Wing, I don't think you really want a lot of ships.
Right.
X-Wing, you really want a board covered in TIE fighters and X-Wings and lots of choices, and so it ends up being quite an expensive but cool-looking game. Whereas this one, you really don't need 2 or 3 more ships. The only reason you're going to want more ships is just to have variety for your different games. Maybe one game you want to play a man of war, another game you want to play a frigate. So you maybe want a little variety, but you certainly don't need 6 frigates and 6 man of war. You're just not going to need that many boats.
Right.
So all that said, I think this is the kind of game that the downside of it is a naval combat game, and not everybody likes that. I mean, it is a slow pace. So I'm going to say it is a 4+ for your average gamer. They will enjoy it on a roll of 4, better on a D6. But I will say that anybody who likes naval combat games, I will give this a +2. I think it is an exceptionally good Age of Sail naval combat game, and which transcends its components, because a lot of games that have these really detailed components don't really capture the rules. This game gets it
right.
I think it's a lot of it right. I like it a lot.
Cool. Awesome. Now, to address the Patreon patron question of do the ships have enough difference that you notice, and would it be worth expanding beyond the base set? Exactly what Russ said. Well, there's so many things that can change, including the attitude where the greens and the oranges and the reds are on the little ship cards, the number of cannons depending on how your damage goes, your burden, which is basically your hull rating. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can change how many how many damage you're putting out, how many crew you have. So the game has the potential for all these ships to feel very different. To be honest, I'm not feeling that the difference is so drastic that I'm like, oh, now I need all these other frigates because this is the frigate that does this, and this is the frigate that does that. It's more like they're finely tuned. They've each got a slight different change that's kind of neat. The only thing I would say is, as a warning, both Randy and myself, who are lieutenant level backers of the Kickstarter, we have 8 ships each. So we're not going on just the starter box for our potential. The starter box, remember, comes with 2 ships of the line and 2 frigates. So you wouldn't be able to do 2-on-2 frigate battles or 2-on-2 ships of the line battles, which is a lot of what we've been talking about. So you might want more ships to give you exactly what Russ said, more opportunities for different types of games. But it's not something where right now there's 16 ships available. I don't think you need 16 ships because, you want to get the one that does that and the one that does that. I don't think there's that much of a difference built in. That being said, how do I feel about the game? I love it. I feel like this is the game that I've been waiting for as far as an Age of Sail game. It doesn't only nod towards all the things that you want taken into consideration, but you really feel like you're living these moments, either historical, if you've studied historical naval battles, or like from Horatio Hornblower and the Aubrey Maturin series, all the way to Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, you're really seeing all these cool things that you've heard about and that well, it should really work like this. For the most part, everything's working that way, but it's the mechanics of the game doing it for you, and you're just like looking at the numbers and like, okay, so I'm going to do this, or I'm going to use this card, and so it's very easy to track what you need to do. It's cliche, but it's very easy to figure out the basics of the game. Very hard to master things like maneuvering, which I think is awesome. So I am going to say, I can't remember the numbers that Russ said, so these are on my own. I'm going to say a 4+. as a standard rating. I'm going to say -1 if you know you don't like surface fleet or any fleet combat games. And I'm going to say, I think this probably ends up the same thing you said, +2 if you like naval combat, because I can't imagine, unless you're going to go with like doing all the math and you're tracking all the numbers in pencil and blah, blah, blah. I can't imagine a game that's going to do all of these different elements of Age of Sail combat the justice that Sails of Glory does. So I'm going to say +2 if you like naval combat games. So I think this is a huge win for anybody who enjoys naval combat games.
Nice.
Now, Sydney, you haven't played, so could you rate for us your interest in trying the game out?
Well, I guess I probably have the 4+ thing you guys were talking about.
All right.
Okay.
Because it is not at all my kind of game. Like you said, I don't like table combat games. I'm not big on naval combat games, plotting out your moves and slowly going through each of the actions. But you guys, you made it sound really cool.
All right, good. See, it's like commanding a spaceship in space. But
Exactly.
Maybe I'm just, always stuck in my little la fantasy world, but it sounds a lot like Dice Duel if it decided to make everything important,
Yeah, there you go. See, exactly.
There you go.
Dice Duel Pirates. Wait, there's something there, I think. Okay, so Sydney, thank you so much for joining us.
It's been great having you on the show.
Oh, it's been so much fun to be here.
It was great having you on the show. So do you have a little website or anything you'd like people to visit to check out what you're up to or anything? Or would you like them to go check out Dice Duel someplace or anything like that?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well,
I guess my dad, he's on BGG,
There you
Board
go.
Game Geek.
Or you can check out Stronghold Games, right, for a copy
Or you could
of Dice
check out
Duel.
Stronghold Games.
Yes, there you go.
You could do that.
Well, Sydney,
You could do that. Or you could just Google search it and see what comes up.
right. Well, Dice Duel will be right at the top because it's a great game and it's well beloved. So, Sydney, thanks again so much, and say hi to your dad for us, and thanks again for taking the time to come on the show.
Thanks for having me. Wait, question.
Yes.
Yes.
Was my dad ever third chair?
Yes.
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 Oh, you wanted to be the first,
No, you were-
Engelstein.
But you did beat your brother, so you got that going for you.
True.
All right. Thanks, Sydney. Take care.
Bye-bye.
You looking for news, reviews, and interviews? The D6 generation. It's groovy as groovy does define, baby. The D6 generation. Born to game. Oh, yeah.
Well, now it's time to talk about our friends from Cool Mini or Not. I just got my Rivet Wars set, and man, was I pleased with what I got. The miniatures look great, all pre-assembled, plopped right up. The plastic's great. It completely stores them back in the box. I don't have to worry about like getting foam or anything. It works great. Gameplay's awesome. But I can go on and on for hours about Rivet Wars by myself. But Craig, you were just at TempleCon looking at all the hotness from Cool Mini or Not. What'd you see there?
Oh, man, that TempleCon booth, Russ, is like, it is so full of people who are excited about what they're doing. And just so demo table after demo table. There, of course, there was a Chaos Ball one. I was very excited to see that. Rivet Wars, Sedition Wars, they had that there. And, of course, Super Dungeon Explorer, which is their big thing. One of their many big things that they're pumping out there. And they showed all kinds of new factions coming out, new characters that were coming out that were available for Super Dungeon Explorer. And they had these new cool rubberized mats that they were showing that were not available yet, but they kept saying yet very heavily as if that's something that they wanted people to be looking forward to. It was just, and of course, every person working that Cool Mini booth, no matter where you go, that Cool Mini booth is there. And they're always super excited. They want to talk to you. They want to tell you what's going on because this is a company that just does not rest. It's just project after project, and every one of them is ace. There's just not a misstep there. It's just layer after layer after layer of success. So just super excited. Always to go by to say hello to our friends over at Cool Mini or Not. And I'm so jazzed up about how cool it was. I just stopped thinking.
I know. So head on over, check out coolminiornot.com and check out all their hotness today.
Yes. This edition of Jever Notice is brought to you by all of our patrons at Patreon. Go check out our video at patreon.com/the D6 Generation and check out Russ's head live. Become a supporter and help the show. Did you ever notice how some authors can really crank out novels really, really fast, and other authors take forever to churn out one giant book at a time? George R. R. Martin. I've always wondered how long it takes to write a book. I still do, oddly enough. A lot of the people that have talked to me since I started writing these books, that's one of the questions: how do you write so fast, or is it too fast? And another question is, where do your ideas come from? And a lot of people ask me, why don't you talk more about the writing process in Did You Ever Notice? And so I thought, with everything that's going on in my life right now, I might as well focus on that, because it can be positive. And so here's my theory on writing and why it takes some people a long time, and why it takes some people very, 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 very short time. And, of course, this isn't going to be universal, and it's a theory of mine, and I only have my own experience to settle down with it. So it's quite possible I'm completely wrong. So put on your seatbelt, and your mileage may vary. I think there's two ways that people can approach writing books. There is the way where you are making art. You are looking at it like there is a perfect novel inside your head. A lot of people claim, or a lot of people say, that like when a genius sculptor looks at a piece of marble, that within that piece of marble is a sculpture just waiting to be released, and that's all they're doing is releasing that perfect sculpture. And then there are storytellers who just love to tell a good story. And a storyteller, as opposed to the fine craftsman, is going to tell a story, and that story could go any number of ways. There isn't a perfect story in that storyteller's head, I don't think. I think these are the storytellers that work best in collaborative efforts. These are the storytellers that can come up with stuff off the spur of the moment. They're the storytellers that you give them a premise and they can run with it. They do really good stuff like with charity stories, because all you have to do is give them a basic premise and they can run with it and do really, really well with it. I do not put myself in this category, just in case that thought it popped in your head. But I do consider myself a storyteller as opposed to a craftsman and artist, but mainly because I can work in this environment where I'm constantly having stuff thrown at me like, oh, add this. Oh, add one of these. Oh, add two of those. Oh, this guy now has to do this instead of that. And so you kind of have to just flow with it. And it taught me, as I was learning how to write these books, it taught me how to sort of, that I can't wait for the muse and I can't chisel away a little bit each day. I have to just run with it. And a lot of those ideas are not going to be mine, so I have to make them my own, or I have to agonize over them. And agonizing over them just didn't work. It wasn't helping anybody. And so I decided I was going to try to make them my own, which is an actor technique, an actor preparation technique, where you take the director's direction and you make it your own so that you can sell it as if it's coming from yourself. And that's a lot of what I think IP writing is, because you're playing in somebody else's playground, so to speak, quite often with their imaginary friends. And so you just have to kind of work with it and move it along and make sure that it makes sense to you in the end, and then that's where you can go with it. I think that the craftsman is I have no doubt that there are craftsmen out there, that there are people that will work meticulously on a novel for years and years and years and slowly pare away the adverbs and massage the verbiage and all that other stuff, and revision after revision after revision. And don't get me wrong, revision after revision after revision is what this is all about, trust me. But I think that for every one of those, a true artist that's really moving towards something,
there are countless thousands of storytellers that are using that as an excuse not to just get on with their story. And that's, I think, the tragedy. Because I think a lot of people, if you get it into your head that it's not going to be perfect, then you're kind of removing yourself from that highest echelon. You're not going to be, one of the greats in your own head, no matter what you do. Because even if you do succeed in getting that far, then it's luck in your head. Is my head's in a very weird place, but anyway. Whereas if you're a storyteller, you're trying to do this. You're trying to just bring out the story and entertain and maybe educate. Maybe you want to massage that message underneath the story, but for the most part, you're trying to just get out there and amuse people and entertain people. Then a lot of your choices become more free flowing, and you can follow that story wherever within the limitations of what it is you're trying to do, wherever the story may lead. And ultimately, and this I have learned from college courses, graduate courses, theater courses, writing courses, seminars that I've gone to, many, many, many different areas, and they've all coalesced into this sort of theory. And that is, there are three main pillars or supports to the tripod of a good story: the world that you're going to be in, the characters that are going to be performing in this story, and the story itself. And you need to have all three of those need to be strong. Now, if one of them is weaker than the others, if you've got a really great story and a really great world and the characters are kind of two-dimensional, people are going to enjoy that story for the most part. Most philosophical writing is kind of like that, would fall into that category, right? Or if you have really great characters and a really great world and the story's kind of I mean, half of epic fantasy is the story like we've read it 1,000 times, but if the characters are new and intriguing and interesting and the world is fully realized, then that's great. If you've got great story and great characters and the world is kind of meh, I think that's the weakest of the three. And I think that's where a lot of early novelists fall down, where you need to have this world that's fully realized before you can start shooting your characters into it. And I think that as a storyteller, as opposed to the craftsman, the artist, as a storyteller, you're kind of like weaving through those pillars and sort of building them as you go, sort of. Whereas if you are the craftsman, then you're slowly building each pillar individually, and you've got decades behind you of Bibles and whatnot that you've written. And I think that is definitely a way to go, especially if you're going for the fully realized product. But as far as getting your writing out there and starting to learn and to write and to show it to people, I think for me, and I don't know whether this is like an internal thing where you're coming from, or like you have a natural tendency, or if it's just what you've learned. For many, 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 many years, I did think it was if you had it, you had it. If you didn't have it, you didn't have it, and I thought I didn't have it. I tried writing a book in graduate school. I wrote it. I hated it. I gave it to a couple of my friends. They said, "Oh, that's neat," and that was it. And I thought, well, there you go. I tried my absolute best. I agonized over it for over a year, and it kind of stunk. And then I got thrown into the deep end. And I, whether I'm good now or I still suck, I don't know. And I don't think I'll ever know. But I do know that I'm way better than I was back in graduate school. And that's what they say. They say you have to write 1,000,000 words before you write any really good ones. And I hope that's an exaggeration, but what you have to do is think back about all the things you've done in your life repeatedly, that you've repeated over and over again. How many of those things have you repeated over and over and over again that you didn't get better at? Right? And so I think those of us, I'm going to be a writer. I have one perfect book in me. That's the guy who's never going to finish. It's the guy I want to be a writer. And that's what it comes down to. If you want to be a writer, write. If you want to be a game designer, design. If you want to be an artist, draw or paint. You've got to do it. And just do it to the best of your ability, and then go on to the next thing and the next thing, because it's that repetition, it's that growth through constant trial
that gets you to the next level. And so I might suck. I don't know, like I said, but hopefully each time I put it out there, I'm roughly 10% from to the next stage where I'm going to write something really good. And thank all of you for who are joining me on that journey. I really do appreciate it. I did make the mistake of reading a Goodreads review, and that may have had something to do with a stumble self-confidence wise lately, but it's okay, because I'm going to just keep doing it as long as people are going to keep letting me. And right now they're still letting me. So that's all I've got for this topic today, anyway. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@the d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
So, Sydney, let me just ask you this. Have you ever watched an episode of Firefly past the first episode?
Past the first episode?
Yes.
I watched the first 2 minutes of the second episode, and then I got interrupted. Does that count?
And then you felt no desire or compulsion to go back and finish the rest of them?
Well, there was a new episode of Supernatural.
Oh, see?
Which is my favorite show.
All right, I got to call your dad. So now what is your favorite sci-fi related show, would you say?
My favorite sci-fi show?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Geez, this is all hard questions.
See, this is all right. So basically, I'm concerned now. So I have to talk next time I see your father at a convention. I'm going to scold him because you do not have off the top of your tongue a favorite sci-fi show.
I watch mostly fantasy.
Okay, that's fair. What's your favorite fantasy show?
Supernatural.
Oh, that's Craig. All right.
I don't know. I can't even.
Oh, okay.
Does
Doctor Who count as sci-fi?
Yes. Oh, good. Yes. Thank God. Yes, it does. It does.
Then Doctor Who.
Whew. Okay. What's your favorite Doctor?
David Tennant.
Okay, you're fine. Are you good?
I'm cured.
Yeah, it was close. We're gonna have to send you to remedial training or something.